History is being made. That's right, Atlanta Braves fans. Just wake up on this Wednesday. Put your beautiful head to rest on this Wednesday evening tonight, later on when you go to bed, and you are going to be able to sleep well, sleep tight, because you'll be able to know that history is being made by your Atlanta Braves. That's what we want, right? When the season started, we all wanted to break history.
Yeah, they're falling behind for a more dramatic comeback and World Series win, right?
And that's what we've got. We've got history. History has been made. That is not an opinion. That is a fact. That is a statistic. And the Atlanta Braves, Diesel, while they are absolute hot garbage in 2025, at least we can say they're making history. What do I mean by that? Going to start with this stat for you. The Atlanta Braves right now are batting 137.
Is that bad?
Yeah. Okay, let's pretend you just woke up today from a coma and you didn't know baseball. That's not good.
There's people who would text into the show right now and say, you guys have been awake for the last 40 years and 28 years, and you don't know baseball.
Well, that may be true, but what I'm telling you is batting 137 is not a good thing, okay? We've established that. We've established that the Braves are setting and making history. Diesel, with the Braves' average of 137, the last Braves team to bat that low over any span of 6 games was the 1942 Boston Braves. Again, we've made history. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. That's where we're going to start. It's not happy. It's not exciting, but it kind of matches the weather outside, right?
But it is interesting. It is entertaining in the sense that it's so bad. Hey, look, at least when you burn garbage, you do get some heat off of it.
Yeah,
you can use it to, turn a turbine. It can be useful,
Keep
right?
people warm.
Yeah.
But they're bad.
There's all kinds of companies out there that are burning, incinerating garbage and then using the heat generated from it to turn turbines, to generate electricity, to make the heat coming off that hot garbage actually functional. And that's kind of a metaphor for what we're doing here with these Atlanta Braves.
And that's a metaphor for what we will continue to do, is what I'm afraid of. So let us know on the text line where we're wrong, because the positive energy did not work last night. The Braves lost again. They are 0-6 now, on the verge tonight of being 0-7. The Atlanta Braves fell to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Also, Diesel, this is the worst the Braves offense has been through the first 6 games of any season in franchise history. I'll repeat that. This is the worst the Braves offense has been through the first 6 of any season in franchise history. What does that tell you? Does that, and again, I know it's 6 games, but does that remove the narrative that this is a loaded baseball team?
I think, Cole, it's your problem. You have the problem with this. It's not that Alex Anthopoulos has forgotten how to put together a team. It's not how Brian Snitker has forgotten how to manage a team, or the pitching coaches, or the hitting coaches. This is a you problem, man. It's a problem of perspective. You gotta
Please enlighten me.
Yeah, you gotta think better about this. You gotta think, well, it could be worse. They could be batting 100. Yeah, it could
just
always
wait.
Always get worse.
Just wait.
Yeah.
You want to bat 100? Just wait.
I remember we were asking this question last year, Cole, down the stretch, the last 30, 40 games of the season last year. We're asking ourselves, how could a team that has this much talent as far as hitting goes all go on a slump at the same time? Like, is there something in the water? Are they getting them, crappy pillows for the team hotels? Are the road girls that are not, the wives don't know about, are they staying around the hotels too late and these guys aren't getting a good night's sleep? What's going on here?
Diesel, here's my fear. My fear is that this offense that you're seeing right now, this team, this play, this level of play, is going to lead to something very bad. That's my fear. My fear is that this lethargic, You throw in your adjective, throw in your whatever descriptive you want to use. Diesel, I'm worried that this could be not just 6 games. Well, you say, Cole, it's only 6 games. Okay, well let's throw this out there. If you say it's only 6 games, let's look at this stat that I pulled up earlier today. Diesel, the Braves are 70-70. That's 500, by the way, since May 1st of last season. So if it wasn't for the strong April of last year, this team would have missed the playoffs. So I'm here to tell you, this is not a 6-game issue. This is something that we saw all of last year, and we're going to continue to see the rest of this year.
This feels like a roster that management pulls the plug on and says, okay, enough's enough. Whatever it is, it's not working. Let's sell off all the pieces, right? Let's drag all the junk out of the garage, put it in the driveway. Let's have a yard sale. Let's start over from scratch, because what we're doing and who we're trying to do it with sucks.
Ain't working, right?
It sucks. We got to move on. It'll be a slow dismantling. And this is, I think, Cole, what this is it's proof that Alex Anthopoulos' methodology, which was get great players while they're young, sign them to long-term deals, not necessarily the short-term high dollar figure, doesn't work in the modern major leagues. And maybe these guys would tell you to your face that they're happy with the contracts that they got. Maybe they're not happy about their contracts, right? Maybe they're not happy seeing all these players get gigantic contracts all over the league and saying, well, why isn't that me? Why is it my organization doing it? Do I work for a cheapskate in Alex Anthopoulos? Do I even want to be here anymore?
I don't know if I can put a finger on why the Braves offense is so bad, because if you go back in time, Diesel, to 2 years ago, you're going to also see history being broken. 2 years ago, you're talking about an offense that was historic in a good way, in a very good way. Today, 2025, not such a good way. Ozzie Albies batting 136. Michael Harris batting 130. Jared Connuck, 158. Austin Riley, you know what he's batting? 167. Arcia, hey, best player on the team right now, batting 286. Let's see, Drake Baldwin, 150. De La Cruz, 125. Matt Olson, one of your best hitters, 167. Ozuna, who was probably your best player last year, 214. Profar, well, he's on the drug train. It's abysmal, and I know it. People will say, "Hey, it's just 6 games. You need to chill out." But Diesel, this is just horrible. Here's the question: how long does this have to go until someone, not saying Snicker, but until someone's fired?
Oh man, the messages coming in fast and furious. Texter here says, "Let's see, God, these are just all of a sudden, bam." Texter says, "Why are we talking about the Braves? They're 0-6." Texter, I mean, you talk about the story, right? You talk about the story, and it's. I mean, people love a dumpster fire, right?
I love it. Yeah.
Tell me the truth. How many times have you slowed down to look at an accident on the side of the highway before?
And Texter, I don't know if you know this or not, the Braves are like the team here. So welcome to the Upstate, by the way.
Texter says, same person says, let's talk about some winning teams, like literally any other team. I know Texter is being facetious here.
Yeah.
Do you really want us to talk about the White Sox?
Yeah, let's do that.
You want us to start deep diving into the Seattle Mariners? No, you don't.
That'd be a good idea.
It's more entertaining to talk about how much this team sucks than talk about a team that's all the way across the country. Because, Texter, I've tried bringing up other teams that are doing interesting things like off-season trades, and you people will always text in and say, why are we talking about what's going on with the Blue Jays? Why are we talking about the Rangers? We're Braves fans here. So
hopefully
here you go.
The texter was
this is the bed that you have crapped in and that you have made, Texter.
Yeah.
You guys have told us loud and clear. You don't care about the Dodgers if they're great. You don't care about how many home runs the Yankees are hitting. You only and exclusively want to hear about these Atlanta Braves. So here we are. We're in this room now.
Here's the problem, though, and we'll move on from this, I promise. One texter, we're not going to let you, as one texter, speak for everybody. because there are also 12 other texts about the Braves on the stream as well. So
Texter says, "What do you mean, you people?"
Yeah, it's one person. It's one dumb person out there that's saying that. And again,
I wouldn't call him dumb.
Well,
it
it's
could
a
be
dumb
a doctor.
text. Okay, well, it could be a dumb text. It could be a dumb doctor or a dumb lawyer. What else on the text line before we get back to it? The JD, what did he say? I wonder if the Braves let the pitchers hit instead of a DH. I mean, yeah, it couldn't be any worse, right? Texter from the 803, if the losing streak reaches 7, they should take a page out of South Carolina's book and schedule Presbyterian. Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
Well done.
That's a good idea.
Well played, Texter.
Texter says, my fantasy roster is better than this roster. Texter says, I actually think the Braves will move on from Snitker before they move on from a lot of their team-friendly contracts. It's an interesting text. By the way, from the is that JD? I think it's an interesting text there, JD. Corn Chip says Braves
I don't know, can't tell. It didn't sign his text.
Didn't sign his Braves. Corn Chip says Braves are signing Hold My Beer to the White Sox from last year. Braves going for that level of bad. Yeah, right now it does seem that way. It really does. So, texters, look, I don't know what to tell you. It's bad. I cannot figure out. I can't wrap my mind around why the offense is so bad. But Diesel.
I mean, can we look and see how the Braves AAA roster is doing and just move them all up together at once?
Sure. Not a bad idea.
I mean, look at it. It's worked for Cade Klubnik since Dabo talked trash to him in the media. Why not move the entire Braves roster down to AAA just to send a message?
Move them down.
Yeah, move them down. Bring everybody from AAA. It can't get any worse.
JT and Greer says Acuna and Strider will help when they get back. I don't know how much of a help, but we'll see. Again, that's, let's see, from the
starter
very start
pitches
of the
what,
show.
once a week?
Yeah, maybe twice.
Yeah, so I don't know how much help one starter will get you when the team is this bad.
So, Texter, going back to you, who was saying, why are we talking about the Braves? 20 texts in 12 minutes, so maybe that's why. So thanks for listening, by the way. Here's some audio, Diesel, that I heard this morning that's very interesting, okay? Jurickson Profar went out. We talked about it, Monday? Monday at like 6 o'clock when it broke on the air. A radio show host who is on air with Brandon Leak, good friend of the show, right? We have him on all the time, from 680 The Fan in Atlanta, had a really good conspiracy theory this morning when talking about why Jurickson Profar got suspended. Tolos, what is your reaction to this?
The thing that I didn't connect yesterday that I connected late last night, and it was an epiphany. It was an ice cream and vodka-induced epiphany.
Sometimes that happens.
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt in my mind. I don't need ayahuasca. I don't need to go to a hospital.
Sometimes you find the answers at the bottom of the bottle. I understand.
I'm old school. I went right to the ice cream and vodka, and all of a sudden it was like, whoa. I remember being on the Zoom call with Jurickson Profar and talking about, hey, this is what's different. He was a 31-year-old guy who all of a sudden found a pop to 24 home runs again. 31 years old. And you go, okay, maybe the guy just figured some things out. And then he told us what he figured out. He worked with Fernando Tatis Sr. Oh, that's interesting. Wait. Now when this hits, Fernando Tatis Jr. got popped for 80 games. What's going on?
He said, here, take this. Don't worry about nothing. Don't ask any questions. Take this.
No, let me tell you who I wouldn't have taken anything from. The guy whose son got popped for 80 games. You obviously aren't ahead of the game. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is me talking. I got a bunch of things about this. Was it a spring training test? Was it an off-season test? When do you find out? There was certainly an appeal. Agent finds out Alex Verdugo was signed on March 20th.
So if you want to try to connect dots, maybe they knew at that point because we questioned.
So, Diesel, a really interesting point brought up by a host who's on with Brandon Leak, and we've had on the show many times, from 680 The Fan in Atlanta, because Jurickson Profar was training with who? Fernando Tatis Sr., whose son trained with him the year before, last year. You remember when the exact same thing happened? 80-game ban for the exact same thing. I don't know if it's true or not, but boy, is that a coincidence, right?
So he's insinuating a conspiracy of some kind. Is he insinuating that Jurickson Profar is stupid when it comes to who he chooses to train with? Is he insinuating that Fernando Tatis Sr. is stupid in that he potentially gave Jurickson Profar the same banned substance that his son got a hold of? I mean, there's no specifics. This is why it's brilliant on this host's part.
Right.
He doesn't specifically say, I have this conspiracy theory that Jurickson is an idiot and he took the same things and, should he even hired the same guy? Is it a company you keep or is it what you put in your body?
It's a great question. And I think that's a really interesting viewpoint that guy has on 680 The Fan. I apologize for not knowing his name.
He's also insinuating that Senior is the one who gave Junior the banned substance.
But is that not weird, the way it lines up?
It is.
It's
weird.
It's
coincidental.
Yep. I don't know.
Once is occurrence, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a pattern. So we got to find out who Fernando Tatis Sr. is going to work with next year. Stay tuned for the exciting conclusion.
Rick and Greer says on the text line, Braves 0 for 162. Hopefully that's not the case. Dewey is waiting on hold on the phone line, who is a resident Braves fan. What's up, Dewey?
Yes. Well, first of all, this shouldn't. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, them going 0-7. But here's the thing. We all know, too, that the Braves struggle against San Diego and Los Angeles on the normal. Middle of the season, all of a sudden they'll drop 6 games back-to-back to these 2 teams. But this is different. The Diesel, I have to agree with Diesel, and that makes me angry. But something is going on with this team. Either management done lost this team, they're all mad about their contract, something's going on. They're not even trying. Last night's only run was an error.
It was an error, yeah.
It was an error on Mookie Betts.
Yep.
And then Mookie Betts gave it right back to him.
You're right.
You lose a game. You lose a game when you have Chris Sale on the mound. You don't even try. Something's going on, and they need to figure it out fast, or the season's lost. This is different. And we'll see when they play the Marlins. They dropped 3 more to the Marlins.
But the Marlins aren't a bad team right now. They're winning games,
That's concerning.
Right.
So Rob Brown said this morning, if they get to the Phillies and still maybe 0-9 or something, they're done.
They're done.
They're done.
They're done.
There's no coming back from this. Acuna, let's look at Acuna. Will he help? Probably, but the reality is he wasn't doing – when he got injured last year, he wasn't doing great anyway.
Right.
So
Marlins are 4-2, by the way.
Strider's a wild card.
Dewey, thanks for the call. Good call. I mean, Diesel, I think that was a really, really good Dewey call today.
Well, Kane is going all conspiracy on Dewey, stating that the Braves have messed up when Dewey gets so upset he breaks character.
Did he break?
So, Kane, are you trying to tell us that the Dewey we hear on the radio isn't the real Dewey? He's not some basement-dwelling, mouth-breathing, calls his mom for meatloaf at 4 o'clock every day kind of guy?
Shadilak on the text line says, I've been a Braves fan since 1980. I've seen bad Braves teams. This one's too talented to be this bad right now. And Shadilak, I appreciate that text because of all the texts we got. I think that text really describes where we are. Diesel, again, I think the last sentence that Shadilak texted in, this team is too talented to be this bad. I think that's a great summary of where we are. You're exactly right. There's way too much talent for this team to be that bad. And that is why it's so frustrating. Texter says, that may be the most understandable Dewey call ever. I know, right? Like, that was a really good Dewey call today. It made sense. I agreed, which I hate agreeing with Dewey.
Was it salient and coherent because he has been drinking or because he stopped drinking for a day? I don't know.
Maybe he started.
Kane says you gave him up a month ago. I don't know what that means. What do you mean I gave Dewey up a month ago?
I don't know what that means either.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
To put a bow on it, look, it is 6 games. But like I said, it's more than 6 games because from May of last year to now, they're 70 and 70. So it's just hard to say it's only 6 games. If this team was, really hot going into the end of the season last year and made a deep playoff run, it'd be different. But, man, like, what sounds so crazy to say out loud, Diesel, is this team's a couple of years removed from a World Series.
Yeah, look, to Dewey's point there, you predicted before the season even started, Cole, that this team was going to start 0-7 against the Padres and the Braves. So they're doing exactly what you expected them to do. They're doing what a lot of people expected them to do. I don't understand why you're so, in your feels about this. Because you knew they were going to be. Look, I know it's the way that they're losing is what you're so upset about. If they were losing, 6-5 or 8-6 kind of games, you'd be like, okay, I expected them to lose these games, but they look competitive. They're hitting home runs. Yeah. They're running the bases well. The pitching is looking good, all these things. But nothing is working right now.
Nothing's working. JB brings up a point. He must have just tuned in because Diesel said this. Switch out the AAA Gwinnett minor league team. See if anyone notices. I mean, they might not. To answer your question of why, yes, I did expect this. Yes, I did predict this. Why am I upset? I'm upset because I'm looking down, and I'm looking at Matt Olson, 167. I'm looking at Austin Riley. Diesel, Austin Riley, 091. 091. Michael Harris, 130. Ozzie. That's why I'm upset. We're not hitting. This used to be one of the most dangerous lineups in all of Major League Baseball. A historic offense all of a sudden has just lost their way, and they're not only middle of the pack, they're freaking horrible. That's what upsets me the most.
Yeah, they're gonna have to figure out a way. This is Brian Snitker's probably toughest job, to figure out a way to snap these guys out of it and get them back into a positive way. Have they thought about maybe making a cutout of some high-ranking official within the Braves organization, hot wife, and every time they win a game, they peel a piece off of it, reveal a little bit more of the stand-up poster?
I don't know what they need.
It worked for the Cleveland Indians. Maybe it could work for these Atlanta Braves. When we come back, Cole, let's keep it weird. Let's do a Final Four of mascots fighting. If you put the Duke Blue Devil, the Florida Gator, the Auburn Tiger, and the Houston Cougar in a cage match, who would come out with the least number of scars on them? We'll talk about that next on the Fan Upstate. talked and talked and talked college basketball, Cole. We're going to keep talking more college basketball. Well, kind of talking. Yeah, technically talking college basketball. We're talking about the mascots of the 4 teams still remaining in the NCAA tournament: Florida, Auburn, Houston, Duke. And if the mascots were to ever get together and tussle, tangle, scrap, who would come out ahead
I like that.
in a fight? Look, we're going to keep talking about these things. We're going to talk about the actual games as we get closer to those. But Cole, I mean, like, you can't keep talking about the same thing over and over and over again and make it entertaining and fun. So let's get a little bit weird. Cole, there's 4 teams left. Again, Florida, Auburn, Houston, Duke. 3 of them could legitimately find themselves in a fight. There was even a TV show about that once. Like, what would happen?
Fighting show?
No, but it was like, I think it was on Discovery Channel or History Channel or one of them. And they did, like, what if animals fought each other? Like, what would happen? And, you know, they kind of would profile the animal. Like, let's say it's an Alaskan grizzly bear or something like that. What if a grizzly bear found themselves
with their weight
in a boxing ring with an orca whale? What would happen? Well, I mean, you know, it's just they say, well, this animal weighs this much and this one has big old claws, but this one's more intelligent. And here's how we think it would happen if we simulated this fight, you know, 1,000,000 times. Here's how the results would come out. And you could, you know, theoretically do a lot of these in real life, but the problem is when you come to Duke, that kind of messes things up. So let's go with the actual bracket as it exists in the NCAA tournament.
I like it.
And we'll start, Cole, with the Florida-Auburn matchup. So you got an American alligator versus a tiger of Auburn. An American alligator.
Matchup, by the way.
Little idea, like, you know, introducing the fighters here. An American alligator, 15 feet long, 500 pounds, prehistoric killing machine, armor plated all over its back. It got a tail that's solid muscle. Very delicious, by the way, if you can get a hold of them.
Love it.
2,100 PSI of bite force, and they can hold their breath for 30 minutes underwater. And here's the crazy thing, Cole. You've probably seen videos of this. You can freeze the water that an alligator is in, and they'll survive. Like, they just go into, like, dormancy, and they survive.
I saw a picture of that not long ago.
Yeah,
during the
like
winter.
their little nostrils just stick up above the water.
That's
as
awesome.
long as they can breathe, they stay alive.
Yeah.
So that's the American alligator going up against a tiger, a godless killing machine. You know, 1,000-pound animal, just claws for days, like 3-inch claws. They're gigantic. Tigers are ferocious. They can swim, by the way. So in theory, if somebody in Florida lets a tiger out of its cage, it winds up in a swamp, it goes for a swim, these two might tussle in real life. It's theoretically possible for this to happen in real life. The question, Cole, is if they did get together and rumble, how do you think it would go and who would win?
You know, there's one caveat, Diesel, that I don't know the answer to, and a texter brought it up. And it's funny that the texter from the 516 brought it up with cats being afraid of water, because
tigers are not.
Cats are, tigers are not, right? You've seen a lot of tigers in water.
Well, not all cats. My little kitten will drink from the faucet if it's running. Only on a slow drip, though.
I don't know. This one's interesting. I don't know if the alligator in a fight has enough speed to use its habitat as an advantage and find some deeper water.
If it's in water, though, these things are fast in water.
Alligator?
But see, they're also stealthy. Like alligators, they sink down low and then they come up and wham.
They're stealthy. I saw an alligator picture this morning. I don't know why this is so weird. It popped up on one of my social medias. An alligator caught a flounder, and it was all over. It was a really cool picture. They're stealthy. They're not like quick, like pop, 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 quick. I would lean tiger, though. I think the tiger would have the advantage just because of quickness, overall agility, strength. Alligators do have a lot of strength, by the way, like a ton of strength. Have you ever seen alligator hunting videos? They're dangerous.
You shoot them in the face with a 12 gauge,
and they're still rolling.
And just piss them off.
This one's a close one. This one's a tough one.
Does it depend on where it happens? Like if it's on land, it's all tiger all day. But what if it's in the water?
I think the water gives the tiger, or gives the alligator a massive advantage, obviously. But if I'm still gonna take the tiger unless it's like deep water and the tiger can't swim.
Well, haven't you seen like nature videos? The ones narrated by the old British guy. The prey animal will get close to the water. Tiger's just walking up to the water's edge. He's a little parched. He's been out in the sun all day, and he just wants a little drink of water. And then out of nowhere, wham! Alligators got him by the face, pulls him in, death rolls. Come on.
Wait a minute. I'm glad you said that. Here's how we answer this. Is it a fair fight? Do both opponents know where each other are? Because if so, I'm taking the tiger. Ooh. If not, you're right. The gator could sneak up, underwater, bam, legs gone, tiger's bleeding. Next thing you know, the gator's got him by the throat, and he's, rattling him like a chicken.
I got to assume that tigers have some, like, equivalent sense of, like, spidey sense. They say, like, cat whiskers, like, feel electrical impulses. So if the tiger creeps down to the water to get himself a drink of water, and there's, like, a little bubble coming up, he's like, "Whoa, what was that? Whoa, that bubble wasn't there a minute ago. What's going on here?" He kind of lifts his head up. He's looking around side to side. Water's still dripping from his chin. And he's like, "I don't like the looks of this," and he backs off.
It depends. If they're in a ring, I'm taking the tiger all day. If they're in a ring, if they're in a wrestling ring, I'm taking the tiger.
I mean, alligators are quick, though. Have you ever seen them move? People think gators are slow. They're actually pretty fast.
They can be shifty.
In a straight line. They're fast in a straight. They're like a Dodge Charger in that way. They're fast in a straight line, but if you have to, you serpentine side to side, you can get away from it.
Here's where I think ultimately the tiger would win is the tiger can jump. The tiger can jump up on the turn. What do they call them on the ring?
X Factor.
Yeah, you can jump. Tigers can jump. I think the tiger win. This would be a close one. I really do think it'd be a close one, but I'm going to go tiger.
See, I disagree.
Really?
I disagree. I mean, there's limited opportunities where an alligator is going to get more than 50 feet from water, if even that far.
Yeah.
From all my nature documentaries as a kid, they don't go far from water. They live in the water. They'll occasionally come up on land to sun. And maybe that's the opportunity for the tiger. If the tiger catches the alligator sunning himself on the beach, and he's fat and happy, he's feeling himself. He's lazy. Maybe he's got a little cocktail in his hand with an umbrella. He's a little sleepy.
Starting position means a lot in this match.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
That's true. But I think the alligator, though, can snap out of it quickly, no pun intended, get into the water, get himself back into his habitat, bring the fight the way he wants it. So I think the gator. I'm going gator. Okay. I'm going gator. Now, again, a gator is 500 pounds. How much does a tiger weigh? Enough to break the ice.
I'm going to guess a full-size tiger that lives out in Africa somewhere. I'm going to guess a tiger weighs.
Tigers don't live in Africa. They live in Asia.
There's no tigers in Africa?
No, lions live in
You mean
Africa.
to tell me there's not one tiger?
There's no tigers in Africa.
Why?
Because that's not their natural habitat. I mean, there might be in zoos, but not in the wild.
There's got to be one tiger in the entire.
No, tigers don't live.
There's no tigers in Africa?
No, tigers live in Asia.
Why?
Because that's where they're from. Natural selection. I don't know. There's no tigers in Africa.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know that. I didn't know. I thought there might be tigers in Africa.
Yeah, they would have to wander from India. Thank you, Kane says Bengal tigers in India. They'd have to wander east like a couple 1,000 miles.
I just thought one day
and then go through the desert up and over Saudi Arabia to come down into Africa. Then they'd have to brave the desert.
But nobody told us to get down before and took them.
Well, no. Come on now, let's be serious for a second. I conceded that there might be some in a zoo somewhere.
Okay.
Something like theoretically,
a tiger in a zoo. In Africa or in
now we're talking. Now we're talking a semi-domesticated tiger who's been fed all of his meals for the last couple
800
of years.
pounds, I'd guess.
Male tigers typically weigh between 220 and 660 pounds. So let's smack it in the middle. It's a 500-pound animal. An alligator is a 500-pound animal. They're roughly the same weight.
It's interesting. I don't think
Now, tigers have teeth and claws and cunning and stealth.
Okay.
An alligator's only got teeth. I mean, I know they have claws, but they don't use them for like killing and eating. So I'm going alligator on this one. I think an alligator snaps a tiger, pulls it into the water, death rolls, and it's over. Cole's going tiger on this.
I'm going tiger. The Asian tiger, not the African tiger, because there is none. I'm going with the Asian beast of a tiger, or the ones in Holly Wild Zoo.
Yeah. What about that guy out in Myrtle Beach who has tigers?
Tiger King.
Let's see. Texter says Tiger King tigers are not in their natural habitat. Texter says the gator would also run from the tiger. Can't eat anything that big. He's got teeth. He can chop things into pieces. Texter says the tiger would sneak up on the gator. JT and Greer says gator would eat the tiger. Let's see here.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I'm trying to get a consensus here, okay? Kane says tiger going to do the Macho Man elbow from the lake dock. It's hard to. It feels like the prevailing sentiment is the tiger would win this fight.
Tiger wins.
Do the Tolos agree with that? Do the Tolos agree? A natural tiger, a wild tiger versus a wild alligator. I'm going. I think the gator would win, but seems like the consensus is that the gator would win.
Listen to that. You think that would stand a chance against? I mean, a gator would stand a chance against a tiger roar? Those things are. Woo.
T Swizzle asks, what's the bite force on these jokers?
Yeah.
Google says a tiger's bite force is 1,000 psi, and that an American alligator's bite force is 2,100 psi. So double the bite force for an alligator.
Yeah,
double the bite force.
Got to catch them. Yeah, I like the Tolos there. I think they're right.
All right. I mean, I'll concede.
Okay.
I'll concede and say
you don't have
Tiger
to,
wins
though.
this thing.
You don't have to.
I mean, we have to move on, right? We have to bracket style this thing, and there has to be somebody advanced to the finals.
Okay.
So I'll concede. Maybe you're right. Maybe the alligator grabs the tiger by the paw, by the toe, and pulls him in, chomps his toe off, but the tiger can keep on fighting, and he's still okay in water. So I'll reluctantly concede and say that the tiger advances.
Okay.
So here we go. In the next matchup, we got a Houston Cougar, not the 40-year-old divorcee who's got a little bit of her husband's money, and's feeling herself, been going to the gym, working out, doing Pilates.
Landman, the lady in Landman.
Right. I'm talking about a real-life cougar, a mountain lion, a puma, versus a blue devil.
Oh, this one's not even.
Right, you got to suspend disbelief here for a second. So cougar's small animal, still ferocious, stealthy. Certainly don't want to see one out on the trail. Like, you've seen those videos of people like out hiking and there's just everything around the corner and bam, there's a mountain lion.
Yeah, sorry, Blue Devil, boy, that'd be in trouble. I mean,
what? But a blue devil could use like ice magic on him.
Blue Devils don't do that.
Like Mortal Kombat's Sub-Zero. He throws ice balls at the cougar.
I think the cougar would just obliterate.
No
the
way.
Blue Devil. Yeah,
he could use the blue devil could use necromancy and pull the White Walkers from Game of Thrones out of the ground. Like a blue devil has got magic on its side.
I don't think this one's close. I really don't. Tolos. Let's see if I can get some agreement here.
Texter says a devil has superpowers. That's JD. Says devils have superpowers. But this is a blue devil, so it's got to have like ice superpowers. Let's see here. Does the blue devil have some kind of magical powers? Asked JB. Yes. He says, I'm taking the blue devil.
Really?
T Swizzle says, I'm curious. He says, no devil has superpowers, or no devil has superpowers.
I think he meant
punctuation
no devil
matters.
Has superpowers. Because he says below it, definitely cougar. So
he's going definitely cougar.
He meant no
definitely
devil.
Cougar. Do you Tolos think there's any chance that a blue devil with potential ice powers could take down a cougar?
Texter says
people have yelled at cougars to back them off.
Texter says I'm picturing a cougar ripping Coach K to shreds. Cougar advances.
Well, that's just a sick image in your own mind.
How cold are they? Yeah, I'm going.
Does the Blue Devil have magical powers or super strength? Yes, he does. Texter says, I think you just said a 40-year-old woman is a cougar. Yeah, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Texter wants to know, how cold are the ice powers? Cold enough to freeze the cougar, I would think.
Yeah.
Texter says the devil could turn the cougar into just a MILF.
I'm still going cougar, man. I'm going cougar versus tiger.
Oh, that's no fun,
I know.
man. You can just go reality. And then obviously the answer is the tiger beats the cougar hands down.
Yeah, because bigger, right?
Rips it to shreds.
Bigger, a lot stronger.
Rips it to shreds. See, I protest the entire outcome of this bracket, but you know what? The people have spoken. So
People have spoken.
JD says, as long as it isn't a fiddle playing competition against Johnny, the cougar, Blue Devil wins.
I like that. I like it, JD. Diesel, I have an idea. I don't know if this idea would ever come to fruition or not, but I have an idea that I was thinking about earlier today when it comes to baseball and what could help the sport of baseball, what could help people watch baseball more easily. I'm going to tell you this idea next, and I want to know if it's a great idea, a so-so idea, or a terrible idea. That's next. You know, it's really hard to watch your team if they're the Braves, if, maybe you pull for a team that's not in our local area, but maybe in our region. It's still hard to watch them. We've talked about many times on this show, Diesel, how with Bally and blackouts, baseball is hard to watch unless it's the national game that's televised, on Sunday night or whatever it is on Saturday, the noon game. Baseball is hard to watch. However, I have a solution that I want to present to you, to the audience, to the world today that might fix this, and it came from sports gambling. A buddy of mine and I were talking about betting on baseball. There are, Diesel, a lot of games every single day, right? You open up the ESPN app and you look at today's games, the slate, they're already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games underway right now. But guess what? We're not watching because what? We can't. We can't watch. So what's the solution? Well, my solution is I think, Diesel, that one of these big-time gambling entities, sports gambling entities, should allow baseball to be broadcasted or presented with a partnership with the MLB somehow, some way, to allow more gambling on the games that you're wanting to watch. What I mean is, what I'm getting at, let's say, for example, who's the biggest sports book out there, whether it's DraftKings. Let's just pretend it's DraftKings. I don't know who the top player
Could
is.
Could be FanDuel, DraftKings, whoever. Yeah.
Whatever. Let's pretend, Diesel, that they really want to up their game when it comes to bets placed on Major League Baseball. Well, why can't FanDuel or DraftKings or whatever it is go in bed with the Major League Baseball Association or the organizations, the entire league, go in bed with them and figure out a solution that if you want to gamble on these games, you can do so through a platform where you can watch the games to give us as baseball fans a way to watch the games. Because what I'm getting at here is there are 7 games currently happening in MLB right now. At this very moment, 7 games. You know how many of those 7 I can probably find and watch? Maybe 0, maybe 1 if we're lucky. Yeah. But what if one of these major players figured out a way to up their intake of bets and also provide a way to watch the games and really get around all of this stupid Bally stuff and the blackouts and this should not be this difficult is what I'm getting at.
So what you're saying is that insert sportsbook here.
Yeah.
Call it FanDuel. FanDuel needs to have an exclusive partnership with Major League Baseball to be able to broadcast or stream every single game.
Correct. And maybe
and
Diesel,
then, maybe allow some enhanced betting opportunities inside. And not that they're not already giving a lot of opportunities to bet, but they'll always find new ways to introduce new bets.
Well, what if it's as simple as this? Let's use FanDuel, for example. I have the FanDuel app. I really don't, but what if I did? If I had the FanDuel app, I could, on my phone or my smart TV, right, at home, I could log into the FanDuel app, and I could be able to bet the games and watch any game. So I don't know if it would work to the entire public. I think the way they could make money off of it is you have to have a FanDuel account to log in to be able to access the game.
So, all right. So here's how are they going to pay for it? Meaning, like, how are you, the consumer, going to pay for it? Do you need to pay FanDuel?
Yeah,
to watch all of the games? 100%. Or are you saying that FanDuel,
no,
because of the amount of money that FanDuel already makes, should provide it to their membership for free?
They could. They have the money.
Because also think about it this way. Not everybody who logs in or creates a FanDuel account is a high-rolling gambler.
Correct.
Some people, they log in, they create an account, they bet one time. Are you saying those people need to or should it be you maintain a certain level of betting every month or every 6 months and you're eligible for games? So that to say, like, all right, you need to meet the
criteria,
$100 a month in wagers placed to maintain your free viewership of any game you want to watch.
Again, that's a good question. I think to answer it, they have enough money.
Which is also like another form of gambling, right? It's like, oh, am I going to be willing to put in more money and place bet. Not only just put money into my account, but actually place the bets.
Well, let's be honest. They can support it. They have the money. But Diesel, I would be okay.
Well, these rights are so extremely expensive. You say they have the money, but and maybe they do, but are they willing to spend it and then give it away?
But that's where I was going. I, as a fan, would be willing to pay the fee per month to access it. I would be willing.
How about the fact that only about 1/3 of sports fans say they've ever placed a bet? So now you got to
start gambling, right? Through FanDuel.
But they don't want to. Well, the 66% who say they don't want to wager, are you going to tell them that, hey, you, Mormon from Utah,
Lake,
you Mormon from Salt Lake, you've got to create an account on this evil, devilish FanDuel site to be able to watch baseball.
I'm not forcing anybody to do it. I'm just saying it's available. Not forcing anybody to do it, but it's available. If you want to watch it that way, if you want to wait till the Braves are on Sunday Night Baseball, that's fine too. I just wish it was available, is all. I would watch, Diesel, I would consume a lot more baseball. I would watch a lot more baseball if I had the ability to do so and even place a bet. You just can't. You can't. It's ridiculous.
I mean, I'm all for giving people opportunities and ways, but we just got to end these blackouts because the blackouts suck.
That'd be the easy answer.
That is
We're not
your
gonna do easy things around here, right?
You need the television stations, and I'm calling out local TV stations that used to broadcast all of these games. They got out of the business of showing live sports, which I don't understand. Because, come on, you and I both know that live sports are the only thing that people tune into anymore. Why are you showing reruns of the damn Andy Griffith show when you could be showing the Braves hitting for a collective 137? Now I'm talking myself out of this. Now I'm understanding why you're not doing it with the Atlanta Braves.
Oh, God. DB
you just
says,
need more robust broadcast partners.
On the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, DB says, how about any game you bet on gives you a code to watch the game? Interesting.
Fascinating.
Interesting. I like it.
Is there a minimum threshold that you have to bet to be able to watch the game, which is then just pay-per-view? Let's be real.
Yeah, I'm fine
At that
for
point,
it,
it's just pay-per-view. You got to bet $5 on the game or $10 on the game, and then you get to watch it. Really, really fascinating. Man. When we come back, Cole, you think college football fans are hardcore? You don't hold a candle, you pansies, to these guys and a major tournament that's coming to the United States that a handful of hardcore fans are not going to be able to attend. We'll talk about it next, right here on the Fan Upstate. Do you remember how big of a deal it was when Harvey Updike poisoned the trees on Toomer's Corner in Auburn? Killed a bunch of massive trees that Auburn fans used to like to toilet paper and roll, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If you love the trees, why are you filling it with the dead carcasses of other trees? That's just cruel when you think about it. But like that is probably the most glaring example that I can think of, Cole, of hooliganry when it comes to American sports fans. Right?
Auburn and the trees.
Yeah, Auburn and the trees.
Yeah.
Like you hear stories of like cars getting flipped over in Boston when they win or when they lose. It really doesn't matter. I think Bostonians just like flipping cars over. It's just what they do. But I don't know that it's ever gone as far as this, Cole, where the British government has announced that they are requiring 150 Chelsea and Manchester City fans surrender their passports to police to prevent them from traveling to the United States for the Club World Cup due to past violent behavior related to soccer.
Whew.
It's wild, dude. It's wild.
It's rough.
I mean, look, we have travel bans in America. If you commit a crime, they take your passport away and they won't let you travel. But this is only temporary.
So they're not even letting them bring. Again, you said
they can't come to the U.S.
Their passports.
They
can't come.
They're asking them to surrender their passports to prevent them from getting on a plane, flying to the U.S. for the Club World Cup coming up this summer.
What's that tell you? I mean, geez.
What did they have to do to get on that kind of a list?
And this is Manchester and Chelsea?
Yes. Chelsea and Man City have both qualified for the Club World Cup by virtue of having won a Champions League title in the past 4 seasons.
So was it help me explain or help me understand here? Was it the U.S. that banned them?
No, it's the British government. The British said
so. Their own governor did.
Yeah, their own government did it. Quote: This is a quote from the British government. Those who fail to comply with police or attempt to travel will face a hefty fine with no limit, or in severe circumstances could face up to 6 months in prison.
Well, good on them, by the way, right?
They're like, you right there. Boris Johnson. It's the only British person's name I could think of. You
Boris
right
Johnson.
there. You, Nigel Fufnell. You can't travel to the. You have to come down to the police station, give us your passport to prevent you
from travel
because we know you. We know you.
And is this
you
summer,
soccer
Diesel? Is it this summer when it's happening?
I think so.
God, that's unbelievable.
Yeah. They cited offenses such as violence, disorder, pitch invasions, which is rushing the field. So we can open up that debate again about rushing the field, and online hate crimes as reasons for the banning orders.
Man, I love that. Look, I thought you were going to say it was the U.S. who banned them, but good on their government for saying, no, you idiots.
It is this summer. June 14th through July 13th, 11 U.S. cities are going to host this FIFA-organized tournament taking place right here in the United States. Chelsea and Man City, having won Champions League titles in recent years, are eligible to come play.
Close to home, too. It's Atlanta.
Atlanta, Philly, and Orlando is where they'll start. Yeah, those are the first 3. Failure to comply with the passport surrender could result in 6 months in prison.
So if you go to the game, you can go to the game, but you're going to go in prison. So there's the question.
Yeah.
To them.
How much is it really worth to you?
You can go, you can hide your passport, and you can go, whatever, illegally go, right? But when you come back, you're going to spend 6 months in the clink. Would you do that for your diehard countries?
I don't love any team that much.
No.
I don't love any team. And this is not like a national team. This is your local team. Imagine being such a hardcore fan of the Carolina Panthers that you were willing to engage in violence and field incursions for your team. And like online harassment, which is like Twitter every day, right? Like,
but Panther fans could argue they're already in jail.
Yeah, you're already in. Yeah, you're already in jail. There are 2,172 people who are currently under this ban order in effect in England and Wales. So 2,100 people total have been banned from traveling to go see their team play. And if you want to know, like, why would anybody why would anybody fight this? Why would you go? If you know that you could go to jail or get a hefty fine with no limit, why would you even bother?
Here's what I want to know.
Don't risk it.
What I want to know about this, what did it take? You said 2,100, right?
2,100.
What did it take to get on the list? What did they have to do? I mean, you're basically being banned from traveling outside of your country, right?
For this tournament. Like, I guess you could.
That's pretty
you probably
serious,
still get on a
though.
plane and go
That's
to.
pretty serious.
Yeah, you can still get on a plane and go to Germany if you wanted to. But you can't get on
whew.
a plane and go to the U.S. to see Man City play.
God, that's unbelievable. I mean, I'd hate to have that reputation. Yeah, by the way, I was on that list. I couldn't go. Couldn't even go see your own soccer team because you were. I mean, basically, what that tells me is whenever they played over there or wherever it was, that there was some pretty. I don't want to call them riots because I don't know, but. Had to be something bad.
Soccer
right?
hooligans are a different breed, man. You think American sports fans are nuts. Yeah. Soccer fans are a different breed. So they've had this issue before for the Euro 2024 tournament in Germany. 99% of the fans who were on the list handed over their passports so they couldn't go overseas. But they still arrested 126 English fans in Germany. So doing the math here, and using the figures that 2,100 people are on the list, 126, that's 6%. 6% of the people who are on the list still went over there and still got arrested.
You know
while
what?
They were there.
I equate, you said it, and you're probably right. Soccer fans are absolutely outrageous, especially soccer fans from other countries. But what would be the closest comparison? You brought up the trees from what Auburn fans do. I think major cities go bonkers when their team, like their NBA team or NFL team or MLB team wins. I mean, we've seen parades. Didn't we see not long ago, and tell me if I just made this up, didn't we see somebody die from trying to climb a light pole? Am I making that up?
No, you're right about that. That did happen. Was that Philly? Was that the Super Bowl celebration? I think that was Philly.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, though. So, like, you're talking about, I don't know if any, I don't want to say this.
It'd be hell for West Virginia fans because they like to light couches on fire and chuck batteries at people. They'd never get to travel to a road game again.
I don't know, Diesel, if college could hold a candle to it. For whatever reason, it feels like whenever pro teams were involved, crazy things happen. And it was a student at Temple who died after falling from a light pole after celebrating the NFC Championship win. Literally, you're talking about a horrible story, so that just goes to show.
College don't make you smart.
College doesn't make you. I think it's worse in the pros. I think it's worse in the pros than it is in the college ranks. I mean, I say that.
Yeah, well, that's a Philly thing, though. that's a Philly thing.
That is,
like Panther fans aren't like that. Not that they have anything to celebrate, but Texans fans aren't like that. You've never heard of Texans fans doing it. You never heard of 49ers fans doing it. Dallas doesn't win anything either, so they don't have the opportunity. You don't hear about Chargers fans rioting. It's in the UK, man. They're a different breed over there.
That's wild.
So who's the bigger sports Karen? The British government for not allowing these fans from traveling to the U.S. to see their team play. All they want to do is see these guys compete, or the 60-year-old woman in Florida who held two teenage boys at gunpoint for fishing her pond, not even on her property.
Yeah.
But she came out of the house with a gun. I've seen the photos of it. It wasn't an actual gun. It was like a pellet gun, but it looks like a real gun. In a quick instance, this thing would be convincing if somebody comes out of her house. Plus these kids are like 15 years old. I don't expect them to be able to quickly identify that this is not a real gun.
Do you know how many videos I've seen on TikTok where this happens every single day, where somebody's fishing somebody's dock, and I fish plenty of docks, have over the last couple of weeks, of a dock owner. So-and-so's dock has brush under it, right? So you're going to go fish their dock.
Yeah, because that's where the big fish are.
Where the fish are. And I've never had it happen to me. I don't think it...
I've only had one person ever approach me while I was fishing and saying,
You can't fish here?
You can't fish here. I talked my way out of it, and the guy said...
But you were on land or water?
I was on water. I took a kayak out.
That's dumb.
I put in a kayak in a public spot, but it's actually just down the road here.
I feel like it happens more
Yeah, it's like a long, skinny pond, and there's houses all around the pond except for one little spot, which is like a soccer field or whatever. And I put my kayak in with that where that little soccer field is, and I went all the way back to the end of this pond, and the guy goes, "You can't fish here." And I said, "Oh, sorry." I lied and said that I live 3 streets over. This was my methodology. I'm away, and I was like, somebody's going to stop me. I need to have an excuse.
Have a good
like
point.
I live on Cardinal Street over there. Yeah, I live on Cardinal Street. And the guy was like, "Oh, well, this pond is only for people who live on the pond,
Yeah, that happens
not for
a lot.
all residents of the housing development." But so next time, here, get my number. You can fish today, but next time, call me first and let me know. I'm like, who made you king of the pond? Nobody made you king of the pond.
No, I've never had it happen. I've seen videos time after time after time where somebody's fishing the dock or next to their wall, their little rock wall, and a lady, and most of the time it's a lady. Sometimes it's a man comes out and gives them a problem, right? But what they don't understand is the water is a public waterway, right? That they're in. So I've gotten look. I don't.
Is that true of all ponds? All ponds are public waterways?
No, not ponds.
Lakes.
Lakes are.
Yeah.
Obviously, ponds. If it's a neighborhood, they might have a real reason. They might
HOAs.
Right.
Stupid HOAs.
But I'm gonna say bigger Karen.
This
lady.
lady.
It's definitely the lady.
And she held these 2 kids at gunpoint.
I don't have a problem
put them on
with
the ground. She made them lay face down on the ground and wait while she called the cops. Her husband came out and said, "What are you doing?" Took the gun away from her.
If you do that, by the way, that's against the law.
She was arrested. She was arrested. She was arrested for aggravated assault and I think kidnapping.
Correct. That's
of 2 15-year-old boys, by the way.
Same thing if you
people are unhinged.
If you hold someone hostage and they're robbing your house and you hold them at gunpoint hostage, you're lying.
Yeah.
So same thing.
It's kind of like an O.J. Simpson thing. Like O.J. didn't go to jail for trying to get his stuff back. He went to jail because they held people in a room at gunpoint against their will.
I don't have any issue. I'm going to go Karen was a lady, the bigger Karen, because I have no issue with what the
British government
did. No,
like
not
you
at
people
all.
are like,
smart.
These
idiots.
Brits are obviously nuts, and they don't need to be traveling to other countries.
No.
Yeah, I'm with you. This lady's awful.
And you know what?
Awful.
I would say, I don't know if like I've seen some pretty bad videos of these. Have you ever seen those videos of the soccer games where it gets bad? Like there's been some.
Oh, where there's riots in the stands, where
riots.
where there's like people get trampled.
I don't know if we'll continue to see that, but like, there's got to be a way to regulate it. So I have no issue with that. But the Karen,
Kane says they actually do crown a king of the pond in HOAs. They vote on who's going to be king of the pond. It's weird, but it happens. How do you vote on a king? A king takes power. A king doesn't need to be a king is not an elected official.
Pond president.
Yeah, pond president.
Yeah. No, I've never had an HOA. I've never lived in a.
I think it's just King D-head.
Thank God. I don't know how many Tolos live in HOAs, but you know what I think?
I have one. It sucks.
If I were president of the country of the United States, I think I would get rid of HOAs.
Ban HOAs?
I just think so. I mean, that's the stupidest thing in the world.
We got to pay stupid high HOA fees, and they don't do anything. You can't get a hold of the HOA people to ask questions. You basically our HOA fees go to like clean the pool, which is a valuable thing. I don't dispute that, but also like keep the street lights on, and that's it. They don't do anything else.
I recently saw a HOA video, Diesel, of I think this was on TikTok the other day. I saw a man get a fine for having his garage door open for too long. There's a limit on how long your garage door can be open, and he got a fine for it. That's why I say you got to ban HOAs.
I'm fine with HOAs as long as the HOA president isn't a jerk like that.
Every HOA president's a jerk, right?
Well, no, ours never even answers emails. You can't get a hold of them, even if it's something legitimate. Like,
it's not the government.
Yeah, I guess.
Right. Tiger fans, Clemson fans, your spring game, by the way, is just a few days away. We are joined by Grayson, Mann of Tiger Net to talk about the spring game. By the way, Brandon on the Facebook stream asked, is it even worth going to see the Braves, Cole? No, it's not, Brandon. I know you and I had talked about it, but no, it's not. That idea, just forget it. Forget about it, as Jersey Joe would say. But our conversation with Grayson, Mann of TigerNet.com is next. away now from the Clemson spring game, as it's already here, a little spring football for you right here in the Upstate on Saturday, the orange and white spring game. But before we get into that, we're going to bring Grayson Mann on to talk about that. But the first thing I want to ask Grayson is, what was your instant reaction to not only the departure of Chauncey Wiggins from the Clemson basketball team, but I saw you tweeted out earlier today that Chauncey Wiggins is staying in the ACC, headed to Florida State, down to Tallahassee. Your reaction to that?
Yeah, I think Tiger fans are going to get a look at Chauncey in the ACC. Obviously a player with a ton of potential, just given the size and the frame, but ultimately one that just didn't really work out. I think for both parties, it was the right move. Chauncey needed a fresh change of scenery, and I think for Clemson, they're looking to probably find that body type, but I think find a little bit more consistency along the way. I think if we look back with hindsight being 2020, if things had gone differently, I think Wiggins would probably be still at Clemson, and we'd have 4 players on this roster instead of 3. But with the way the Louisville game turned out, and then fast forward a week to McNeese and the performances that he gave, I feel like the staff was probably comfortable saying we've gotten all we can out of this, and it's probably time to move on.
Grayson, I don't know how much access you've had to people and personnel inside the basketball program since the season's ended. It's very fresh for them, and I'm sure they want to kind of take time for themselves first to figure things out. But in your mind, what's the strategy now when it comes to going out and rebuilding this roster essentially from scratch? Because it's something that a lot of coaches very rarely ever have to do. Maybe when they're a brand new coach coming into a new program. It's certainly not something that a coach as entrenched as Brad Brownell has ever had to do or hasn't done in a very long time. So what do you think that strategy is, and how much faith do you have in them and their ability to do it at a high level?
Essentially from scratch is definitely a term that I would use to how this roster is going to have to be constructed. And look, it's not like in years past where they needed maybe 1 or 2 needs and you can go fill that in the portal. It was sort of the strategy that Brownell had built, first with guys like Brevin Galloway, Joe Girard. Then you bring in the Jaden Zachary's and the Victor Lockins of the world. You are going, okay, we only need really 2 here. And now Clemson, like you said, basically has to build their roster. They right now have 6. You have the 3 players that have stayed with Ace Buckner, Dylan Hunter, and Dallas Thomas, plus the 3 freshmen from the 2025 class coming in. But 6 is enough. I don't even think you can field a team with 6 players. So certainly Brownell has got he's got his work cut out for him in the portal. He's proven he's able to get some starters. So I think in terms of his track record, you have confidence that they're going to be able to land some big-time players. Obviously, Nick Davidson, one of the top players in the portal, top 5 has got Clemson in there. So it's just a matter of competing with other schools and how much money Clemson's going to be able to allocate to this program to be able to make something happen there. It's definitely a tall task. It's something that I think is pretty unprecedented when we look at what Clemson's been doing for the last several years. But around the country, this isn't exactly a new thing. I mean, there are a lot of players and coaches that have to reconstruct rosters from scratch. So it's going to look like a very different operation here when next winter rolls around to start the season.
Grayson Mann, TigerNet.com, joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. Grayson, when you we're going to get to the spring game, I promise, but another tweet that you sent out yesterday about alcohol sales coming to Clemson. Obviously, we've touched on that a little bit since that tweet went out yesterday, but can you go into a little bit of detail in terms of what that will look like? And I believe you said that was going to start on Saturday. Is that right?
Right. The spring game is going to be basically the trial version of what alcohol sales will look like at Clemson, followed by baseball and softball rolling a piloted version out on April 7th. I imagine they're going to be experimenting a lot before the football season truly begins so they can work out some kinks, certainly with how people get this, what vendors are allowed to potentially sell it. I think with dealing with the university, it's a lot of different moving parts that they're going to have to work out. And so you sort of have an opportunity with a smaller crowd, in theory, to be able to work this out before you have to pack 80,000 fans, with a lot of them certainly wanting to get some alcohol in their system for a game. And so there's just a lot of moving parts. But I think for Clemson, it's a smart move to launch this now. You can work out all the bumps and bruises, per se. And then when you get to the LSU game, you sort of have an understanding of what the standard is and the operation that they're going to want to throw out. It's fascinating to research all this, Cole. Diesel, when you look at it, Clemson was one of the few schools who was actually offering, or not offering, and the other two being in Utah, where the population is 55% Mormon. So you sort of have the understanding of why they're not doing it. So I think it's good for Clemson to get on board. You're going to be able to add an extra source of revenue. They just have to do it the right way. And so I think starting it now with smaller crowds is how you do it.
Grayson, I know a lot of schools and major sports franchises as well. They have their own beers that they can sell on sites for a reduced cost as compared to, a national brand. Do you know if Clemson is going to have its own beer for sale?
As of right now, I don't have that information, but I wouldn't be shocked if Clemson starts to partner with any potential brands and try to get some sort of exclusive deal nailed down. Maybe that's already in the works. I'm not privy to any information on that front. But I do think that's probably the line of thinking that they're going across. Again, I don't want to speak for anybody or any of the planning that's going down. This is one of those areas I'm not entirely well-versed in when it comes to information. But I could imagine you could hear probably in August or July where you have, let's just throw Michelob Ultra out there. You go the exclusive beer of the Clemson Tigers. I don't know. That just sounds like something they probably will sink their teeth into.
Grayson, these spring games, just a few days away, obviously we'll dive deep into the details of what fans might expect to see or might not expect to see. Obviously, as we all know how spring games go. But what do you think, from a Grayson Mann point of view, is the one thing that you're looking forward to the most in this spring game?
I think the fact that it's different, Cole, the way it's sort of formatted, we just got the release here of how the points is going to be allocated in their little scoring system. And Sweeney has said it's going to be different, but he's sort of excited about the way that they can process this. It's in-house. They're not having to worry about TV timeouts or any of the commercialized aspects of the ACC network. And so you get to sort of do your own thing. And I think that could be unique for players, for fans. Certainly, since there's not a TV broadcast, there is a high incentive if you want to catch the Tigers before the LSU matchup. You might want to get down to Death Valley on April 5th and catch the spring game. But some players, certainly, there are going to be a lot of people that get to shine. And there's a lot of conversation across the country about how we're going to handle the nature of the spring game. How do certain programs that are worried about tampering, how does that get processed, I guess, is a good way to put it. So we're going to see how Clemson navigates that aspect of it. And I guess not having it on TV keeps you from certain things happening. But obviously, we've seen certain things. We've seen the Michigan documentary. Things can happen. But I think different is a good way to describe it, and that's going to be exciting for, I think, people that cover it, is we get to all experience this thing for the first time, which I think is fascinating.
Grayson, you, I, Cole, none of us are strangers to game day operations and covering things on game day. Are you going to be doing anything different for the spring game, or is it going to be kind of a dry run, first run of the year for you as well? What does your spring game day look like?
I think it's going to come down to how can we at TigerNet sort of provide, sort of giving you the look and the experience without having to turn on the TV, fill as much information as possible. Essentially, we've become the eyes and ears more than ever. It feels like sort of old-fashioned where there's no TV broadcast, so we really have to rely on the press for the information. So it feels like a little bit of a throwback when you really think about it. So I think my strategy is going to be, what things am I seeing down there that obviously fans who aren't in attendance, how can I inform them in the right and the most accurate way possible? So it's going to be different. Obviously, there's not any highlights to look back on. You can't throw a couple clips on the Twitter timeline to give people more context. There's going to be a lot of explaining and a lot of note-taking, I think, on my end, just trying to take it all in. How different is it? What players are shining? Certainly, I have a list of guys, I'm sure we'll get into that in a bit, of people that I'm looking out for. But I think different's going to be fascinating. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Let's hear the list.
I think for starters, I think a lot of people are going to be paying attention to Christopher Vizina. This is undoubtedly the most important snaps of his Clemson career, because he's next up, in theory, behind Cade Klubnik after he departs for the NFL once this 2025 season concludes. How much of a step has he taken in his development? Because I have the opinion, if Christopher Vizina is not ready, I do believe it's in Clemson's best interest to go into the transfer portal and grab a quarterback. Now, that's not based on any information that I have. That's just my personal opinion, is that Dabo Swinney has been saying on the record that he will do what is best for the team. Not entirely sure your 2026 quarterbacks will be ready yet, necessarily you don't want to put your all eggs on the freshman basket just because you haven't seen them on a college field. So if Vizina comes out there and it's another shaky performance, I think there's going to be a lot of conversations that need to be had in preparation for who's next behind Klubnik. And then behind that, I think for me, it's going to be watching Braden Jacobs and Gideon Davidson, two freshmen on the offensive side of the ball that have really flashed. Talked to a couple receivers this week who said, and this is one of the fun questions we get to ask in the spring, is who of the young guys, this is their time to shine, who stood out? And the names that I keep hearing are Davidson and Jacobs being two players that really have a smooth polish to their game, which is rare for a mid-year to walk into campus and really sort of own the operation. And so those are the two, at least in the mid-year side. And then, of course, you have the transfers, the Tristan Smith, the Will Helts, and the Jeremiah Alexanders of the world. But I think for a lot of Clemson fans, let's see what the future looks like. And I think those first three names that I mentioned are going to be at the top of a lot of people's lists.
Grayson, I know a lot of Clemson fans were a little concerned, mildly concerned is probably the best word to use it, at the tail end of those previous sessions before players were released to go off and do their spring break. Cade Klubnik didn't look good. Dabo Sweeney talked about it in the media, that his head just wasn't in it. Can you tell us what's developed since then, since Cade has returned?
And we talked to Cade a couple days ago, and he actually was just a joking back and forth that he was kind of upset that Sweeney was mentioning all of that. But I think the standard is just higher for Klubnik, and you have to sort of be really picky with his performance. And so when that bar is raised, it's really a different world than last year, where if we had heard those same comments, it's oh no, like what, this guy is falling apart. This is supposed to be your quarterback. What's next? And now it's sort of, okay, he didn't play too many drives. I think it's more of just the coach trying to get fire up the quarterback a little bit, try to get him to prove something. And I think it also sends a message to the rest of your team when the Heisman Trophy potential quarterback is getting barked at by Coach Sweeney. It makes everyone tighten those chin straps just a little bit more and really get going. So I think you have to always find that balance. And for Klubnik, this isn't a spring where we're concerned about what product is going to come. We've seen the best of it so far, and there's potentially more that he can tap into. So the more you can press that standard, I think for this group, we've talked to a lot of players that say that the accountability of practice has taken a significant leap. And I think for all the coaches and players involved, hearing Klubnik get chewed out is probably the definition of that accountability is, oh man, if he's getting yelled at, then something I'm doing right needs to be a little bit better. So I think it can only serve as a positive for this group. And I certainly, if you're a Clemson fan, I wouldn't necessarily worry about Klubnik's spring performance. I think we know what we have, or you know what you have in him at this point in his career.
Grayson, you mentioned it just a few minutes ago, but instead of a split squad setup like previous years, it'll be orange team offense on Saturday versus the white team defense. Within that, they'll have a scoring system where a safety, field goal, PAT equates to a certain amount of points. Can you go into that and what Clemson fans should expect to see on Saturday?
Yeah, it's going to be different, like I said earlier. And so the way it's sort of set up is that the offense, you have your 2-point conversions, you have your field goals, you have your touchdown plus your PAT. That's all going to count for the same. But the defense now, if you go to 3 and out, that's worth a point. You miss a PAT, that's worth a point. You get a 2-point conversion stop, the defense is rewarded with 2 points. The takeaway is 3. It's sort of got a 7-on-7 scoring feel to it, which is kind of unique. And I think that's kind of fascinating to dive into it. But especially with the injuries, it's sort of been tough for Clemson where you can't really split the teams fairly. You can't really find that right balance. So instead of that, you're just going for a true offense versus defense. So you're going to get a legitimate look. You're going to see how the best stack up against the best. And I think that's the best way for fans to get an evaluation in April versus having to sort of look at, oh, well, Wesco did have this catch, but was it against a fourth-string corner is the question. So how much stock do you put into it? If, let's say, Christian Bentoncourt comes out there and runs a little whip route on a slot corner, and you're like, oh, wow, that's something there to really note down versus, okay, that's this competition versus that competition. How do we really evaluate that? I think this gives media and fans the best look possible on Saturday.
Grayson Mann covers Clemson for Tiger Net. Find him on Twitter at Gray_Mann with 2 N's, 21. The NCAA Oversight Committee rejected the proposal put forth by Deion Sanders and Fran Brown of Syracuse to be allowed to play against other teams in spring games. As we've just spent the last couple of minutes talking about Clemson's spring game, What are your general thoughts on a potential future where Clemson could pick and choose their own opponent to play in a spring game? Do you like the idea at all, or are you more of a cautious guy who says, well, we could get guys hurt against another team in the spring?
I mean, it's the same stance you take in the NFL preseason. You want to get a look against a different team. And I really do hope the NCAA and course corrects in the next several months and looks sort of at the feedback. I think it would be a fascinating thing for college football to have. They're really the only sport where they don't get to see another team. Frankly, high school football does it. The NFL does it. They're really the only level where you don't get another look at another team. And so you're sort of forced to scrimmage in-house. And I think for a lot of college football teams, there could be some fascinating storylines where Syracuse and Colorado match up. A Syracuse team that was on the rise in the ACC plays Coach Prime in April. I think that's something a lot of people would want to tune into. And you could probably get a lot of really cool deals out of it where different schools get to travel to different parts. You have these inter-squad scrimmages. You can sort of model it after the NFL where you practice, you have sort of an agreement in the offseason where, let's say, North Carolina State wants to come down to Clemson for a week and they practice against each other. You get a different look. And then on Saturday night, there's a scrimmage with set rules because you can sort of work your way around, hey, we don't want XYZ to get hit. You could still put the jerseys on the quarterback to signify they're off limits till the fall. There are ways you can work around things. You can really hold someone to certain reps. So I think there's workarounds for it in terms of injury. Someone like me who wants to consume the sport as much as possible, these kind of spring squad scrimmages would be really fascinating. And I think something that a lot of fans truly want. And I hope that idea at some point is fixed because that would be, I'd sign up for that 10 times out of 10, 100 times. It would be great.
Grayson, my last question for you. Dabo Swinney was on the ACC network last night and talked about the running back position as the position that he was keeping his eye on the most with, obviously, Adam Randall, who was a wide receiver, Jay Haynes. You mentioned Gideon Davidson. If you looked into your crystal ball, who do you think will be the starter in August?
If I had to make a guess right now, and obviously a lot can change now and then. Now, I have one opinion, but I also have what's going to be the choice of the staff is I do believe Adam Randall will start week one, but I would not be shocked if Gideon Davidson is out there taking the lion's share of the carries and eventually taking over in a way that Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore did, where it's evident that they're the best player for that position. It's just going to take a while for them to get used to the speed of the game. And I think this is where, to just circle back a little bit, is where if you get those inter-squad scrimmages, you can see some of your players against familiar competition where, okay, we have Gideon Davidson going up against Colorado's linebackers. Let's see how he does against that. We have an actual look at how these quarterback battles get decided in the preseason because they're playing different teams other than themselves. So there's a more accurate assessment of how these things are laid out. Sorry to go on a tangent there.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be shocked if Gideon Davidson is starting either early on or week one. I do believe he's eventually going to be the best guy in the room by far. I think that Adam Randall's going to have his special place in this offense. But in my mind, I just don't envision it quite yet of him being the one that takes the carries on 1st and 10. You got your typical dive, your zone reads. It could work. It's just a matter of seeing it. I need to see it on the field first. And I think this spring's going to be, obviously, Sweeney's got his eye on it, and I think the rest of the Clemson faithful do for sure. How does Adam Randall look taking carries on a consistent basis? How does he take the snaps? How does he do X, Y, and Z? There's a lot of questions that we really didn't get answered against Texas just because we were still in the moment of, wow, Adam Randall's a running back. How does that work? Now we get to see it, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Grayson, I know that you primarily cover Clemson for the sake of covering Clemson, not what they do after they leave. But with the NFL draft now just 3 weeks away, and depending on which mock draft you look at, I don't see a single Clemson player listed as a mock to go in the first round. Does that concern you at all?
I don't think so. I think that once you get to the NFL, you have your evaluators. And we've always had this subject of great college players that just don't really pan out in the NFL. There's always going to be examples of that. I think getting drafted and sent to the league is an incredibly big deal. And so for Clemson, they're going to continue to pull that. They're going to have multiple players drafted. It's just a matter of where. And I think that probably stands out just because of those first-round picks. There's only 32 of them, so it sometimes just isn't your year with that high kind of talent. But I think when we're having this conversation next year, if you guys are not sick of me already, the guys like Klubnik, the guys like Peter Woods, the guys like TJ Parker. You'll be mock drafting a lot, I'm sure, next spring to see how those guys end up in the NFL.
Grayson, you're the best. We always appreciate your time, and we'll see you on Saturday, man.
Absolutely, man. Can't wait.
Grayson Mann, TigerNet.com. Always a fantastic interview, and we appreciate you listening. Diesel, I know we got to run to a break because we have the, Daily Wires next, right?
That's right. Your whip around the sports world next. Let's whip around the sports world, see what else is happening out there. Cole, these are our daily wires. The buzz happening around the sports world, make it 6 straight losses to open the season for the Atlanta Braves as they fell to the Dodgers last night by a score of 3-1. Ugh. You brought it up earlier. JD, I think, brought it up as well, that the one Braves run came off of an error, so it's not like
Dewey
they even did something good. Dewey.
Yeah, Dewey.
Oh, I'm
Dewey's
sorry.
call was
Apologies
on
to
point
Dewey. Apologies to Dewey. Atlanta back in action tonight for the series finale against Los Angeles. 8:38 first pitch. Bryce Elder will get the start.
I love the fact that Chris Sale on the mound last night didn't even provide any juice whatsoever in the offense to the team. Morale, nothing. So tonight, Bryce Elder, good pitcher, but I have no faith. I think it's going to be 0-7 tonight.
Last night in the grand opening of Fifth Third Park in Spartanburg, the Wofford Terriers beat USC Upstate 5-2. Cole, I know we're going to get into it a little bit later on, some of your experiences in this brand new ballpark, but very quickly, just how good was the game and how good was the venue itself?
Oh, it was a great game. Wofford's really, really good, by the way. Upstate, they're decent, but Wofford beat them last night. Wofford's a good team. They've split so far this season. Wofford and Upstate have. I left here at 7, drove the speed limit, diesel, to Spartanburg, as I always try to do, right? And I got there in the middle of the third. So by the time I had already gotten there, people were in the stands, people were walking. Traffic, again, we'll go into it at 5:45 a little bit deeper. Traffic wasn't near as bad as I thought it'd be, and the parking garage wasn't even open yet.
Really?
No. And I'll tell you, man.
How was egress as everybody was leaving the park? Because you got there a little bit late. So
Wofford took a lead.
Okay.
People kind of filed out 7, 8, 9. By the 7th inning, it fouled out. But it was freaking awesome is what it was.
Well, Fifth Third is going to get to host their very own team tonight in an exhibition match between the Hub City Spartanburgers and the Hickory Crawdads. Hickory was the high A affiliate that moved down to low A to make room for the Hub City Spartanburgers. So the venue back in action tonight.
They played last night. The Hub City Spartanburgers did at Hickory. Mm-hmm. I just don't know what the result was. Let me see. I'm pulling it up now. So it was just a 2 exhibition game or series, right, between Hub City and Hickory. But I don't know what the result was. I don't know if they won last night. But yeah, they're playing baseball in Spartanburg tonight.
Well, I mean, if you're a Hickory Crawdad fan, which I am because I grew up there, it's like going on a double date with your ex now dating somebody new because the head coach of the Spartanburgers was last year's head coach of the Crawdads, and half of the roster came over from Hickory as well.
And by the way, Spartanburgers open the season Friday at Aberdeen. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Aberdeen. They're off Monday. They're at Wilmington Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Where's Aberdeen at, by the way?
I
don't either.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, it's
got
to be Southeast region. It's all these games are regional. I do know they play a team from like Bowling Green, Kentucky. So
that's who they open up with. So then they're in Wilmington next week on the 8th, 9th, or from Tuesday to Sunday, right? That's how those series work. And then they open the season officially on the 15th of April in Spartanburg versus Bowling Green, like you just talked about.
Clemson baseball last night beat Georgia Southern by a score of 10-8. Clemson is now 27-5 on the season. It feels like Clemson should have handled a team like Georgia Southern. A win is great, but it's lower level competition. You should have beat this team handily.
They were up on them pretty big early, and then Georgia Southern made a late charge. Again, I don't know. Here's what I don't know. I don't know when you're in a midweek game, the pitching you put in late, how's it compared to the pitching? You know what I mean?
Midweek pitching, late inning pitching is a proving ground. It's a testing ground. It's like, hey, who do we have that may be a quality weekend reliever for us next year?
Yeah.
Who maybe has the potential to come in and start for us?
But credit to Georgia Southern, though. I mean, they made it a close game late, and Clemson. I mean, what'd you say the record? Did you just say 27-5? 27-5.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
And credit, Georgia Southern is a plus 500 baseball team.
Yeah.
So not a bad team. So congratulations to Clemson for improving on the season. South Carolina baseball last night beat Presbyterian 11-1. They're now 18-12 on the season. Can South Carolina play more of these midweek opponents all season long? Because they might need it to stay on the plus side of 500.
What conference is PC? The Big South, right? Can South Carolina just join the Big South? Maybe they'll.
Hey, Coastal won a national title coming out of the Big South. It's a tough league.
It's tough. Well, South Carolina needs they need something. By the way, JB on the YouTube stream says Aberdeen's in North Carolina. The Aberdeen Ironbirds. How about that? Ironbirds. I've never heard of.
It's a good name.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all.
I'm trying to see where Aberdeen, North Carolina is. It's just west of Fayetteville.
Okay.
So not quite halfway to Charlotte, but it's about a third of the way to Charlotte from Fayetteville. Carrying on here, the last time Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors played in Memphis, he was held without a field goal, and the Warriors lost by 51 points. Curry didn't recall the frustration from that loss in December, and there was no repeat on Tuesday night. Curry fired up three-pointers throughout the game. He connected on a dozen of them from long range on the way to a 52-point performance as the Warriors beat the Grizzlies 134-125. It's safe to say he was feeling it.
And you know, there's a lot of talk about Steph. Is he aged out? Boy, last night he didn't look aged out. He was phenomenal.
I mean, as long as you can get free enough to get open looks, I'm not sure that Steph's skill is going to diminish very quickly.
It might not.
We talked about this for just a second with Grayson Mann. The NCAA Football Oversight Committee rejected a proposal raised by Deion Sanders of Colorado and Fran Brown of Syracuse to play each other in lieu of a traditional spring game. They also indicated, though, that they would reconsider the issue in the future. Why? Why reject it? Why? You know, like, if the NCAA is known as such a rigid, stick-in-the-mud organization, they're not doing anything to come off of that reputation. Let them play. If they want to play, like, let creativity win here. You know, it's like NCAA, take the win.
William, by the way, says, no, it's Aberdeen Ironbirds in Aberdeen, Maryland. How about that? William, appreciate that.
Ooh, fight it out in the comment section.
That's good stuff.
Camden Hyde, a key player for Purdue in this postseason, has entered the transfer portal with 2 years of eligibility remaining. He started 8 games this season as a redshirt sophomore, averaged 4 points a game, but he is a career 41% three-point shooter. He played in all 75 games over the past 2 seasons. He marks the 4th Boilermaker on a team that went to the Sweet 16 to enter the transfer portal.
How about that?
Even good teams are losing everybody. There's no rhyme or reason to it.
It's tough.
I mean, if you're Brad Brownell, you got to feel a little hurt that your team is leaving you. But man, it's happening everywhere.
Coming up next, Tolo's a little wild card Wednesday for you. We go off the sports script and pull a wild card on you. That's next. a new segment titled Wild Card Wednesday that will be good today, but I don't think it'll be good as the wild card that I threw Diesel last Wednesday, where he had this segment already on the rundown for 5 o'clock. And the wild card I pulled last Wednesday was, hey, I won't be there today. Pretty good wild card, right?
Yeah, thanks for giving me advance notice that
20
you were going
minutes
to get
before
in
the show, right?
car crash.
Yeah,
Come on.
So that 1 week later, we're going to get the wild. Did you do Wild Card Wednesday last week?
I did talk. Yeah, I think I did. I talked about the 2 stories. I think I had 2 stories to talk about.
I like it. We go off script. We go a little wild on the wild card. What card? Look, I don't play card games. I don't play board games, Diesel, so forgive me. What game involves a wild card besides
Poker.
sport? Poker? Okay. See, I don't play poker. Never have. Never. I don't know how. I can't do it. Do you play poker? Do you know how?
I play Hold'em.
Yeah.
Occasionally. I want to have friends that I can play
Me too.
poker with.
It's hard to learn.
I tried to teach my buddy how to play poker, but because we weren't playing with real money, he just wasn't interested, and he got distracted and just like wandered off.
You know
like
what?
He'd go get a drink, and it would take him 10 minutes to
That's
go
a
get his
good point
drink, and then
about
he would
the
start
real money,
BSing. And I'm like, hey, you called me over here to teach you how to play poker.
You know what, man? I
And
don't
then he
know.
won't take it seriously.
Now that I think about it, I don't know how to play. But now that I think about it, when you say that about your buddy, I don't know that I would be interested if there weren't real money. Not at first,
I mean,
right?
yeah.
But
I think when you're learning, it's got to be
Fake.
low stakes.
Yeah.
You know, if you're playing like, if you put real money in, you say this colored chip is worth $0.25, this colored chip is worth $1.
I think Diesel, I think there needs to be a Tolo out there that's a poker. There's got to be a Tolo out there that's a poker expert that would be willing to do a poker class.
I'm not saying that I'm an expert by any means. I vaguely understand the rules.
Yeah, enough to play.
I understand the rules enough to play. I don't understand the math enough to say, all right, here's what I've got.
Involved?
Here's what's on the table. Here are the odds of knowing. Like when you watch Hold'em on television.
No, not
It
not
shows
me.
it shows you the odds of like this person's hand is going to win. Now, granted, the people who are putting those odds, they know what everybody's hand is, and you as the player sitting there playing don't know.
Okay.
You don't know what everybody has, but you know what you have, and you know, like if I've got 2 pair with these cards, like a pair of 4s and a pair of 8s or something, you think, all right, I've got and I don't know the answer to this, I've got a 30% chance of winning this hand. Is it worth continuing to put money in if my odds are that low?
I'd like to be able to say I could play poker. I really would. I think I would enjoy it. My card games, my level is, down here in terms of blackjacks.
But the only way to learn is to play.
And I want somebody who really knows how to play. Greenville Gamecock on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line says, not a poker player, but if you want to learn craps, come to Two Kings Casino with me. Greenville Gamecock, I'll tell you this. I've been to Two Kings many times. So I enjoy it. I love I don't play a lot of slots, but I do love roulette, blackjack, things like that. I had a buddy when I lived in Texas, Greenville Gamecock, who was, I don't know how, amazing at craps. I think it's just luck, kind of like roulette, right? But I have wanted to learn craps as well.
I think it's knowing the odds and knowing how to bet that gives you the best chance to win. You can't outsmart without cheating and know exactly what to put your money on. But you can know, like, all right, if I spread my money out on these bets in this way, I have a decent enough chance of winning some money.
Yeah, I'd like to learn Greenville Gamecock. Texter says, this is Dan B. Not an expert, but I've read the books. I know the math and the odds. DB, you seem like somebody that would be good at poker.
You know more about it than we do.
Yeah, know a lot more about it. And by the way, Greenville Gamecock, how about that? The new area at Two Kings, boy, it's coming along fast, right? I mean, it looks like a skyscraper going up.
I haven't driven up past it in probably a month, so I'm sure it's
going.
Are there walls up yet, or is it still
frame.
framework?
Yeah, framework. I don't know if the walls are up
That's
yet.
where it was the last time I saw it was framework.
So I've got 3 wild cards for you, Diesel. This one came out on Monday, and this one was not something that we pulled from the ether. This one was local on this wild card Wednesday. In fact, reported by Fox Carolina, Danica Salter, right? I mean, you got to love this. This is a fantastic story. that does not involve sports, but that's what Wild Card Wednesday is for. By the way, Tolos, you can text or call the show at 844-326-3663. Diesel, Fox Carolina Monday has a story, it's hard to say without laughing, where the headline reads, 2 arrested when they stopped to put air in tires during police chase, officers say. This is almost one of those where you read it and you think there's no way this is true. But it happened. It happened.
I mean,
you got to get air in the tires.
Uneven tire wear is a problem in this country. If your tires are overinflated, they're going to wear too much in the middle. If they're underinflated, they're going to wear too much on the edges. And clearly these car thieves had that in mind.
I'm just trying to think what goes through their mind, though.
Was it like really flat? Was the tire real flat, or was it just like kind of flat?
I want to know the conversation in the car with these, like, let's pretend there's 2 thieves in one car, right? Or 2 thieves per car. There's 2 cars, 2 thieves, and you got 4 total thieves, right? And the conversation is you're taking a right turn, the cops are on your tail. Hey, Johnny, I know we got to outrun these cops. We really got to get air in these tires. You're in a lose-lose situation if they're flat. But you just can't make that up.
Well, Earl, if the car's running flat, tires running flat, you ain't gonna be able to run so fast. So we gotta pull over and get some air.
We gotta stop. And
I think I watched enough NASCAR in my day. I think we can put some air in the tires real quick.
And keep on speeding, right? But that's not the way it works. So these guys got arrested.
I wonder if they tried to pull over into a QT because QTs have free air.
Yeah, they do.
Other gas stations make you put quarters in.
God, can you imagine if they had to go in and get quarters?
I mean, come on, gas stations.
But a lot of them have debit card.
Gas stations that make people put quarters in for air?
Yes, dumb.
Come on.
That's why QT's
air.
the best, though. That's why QT's the best. So they were arrested, taken into custody, as you can imagine. The police were able to track the vehicle all the way to the gas station when they pulled in and found the suspects stopping for air. By the way, you want to guess what was in the car?
Drugs.
Yeah, marijuana.
So, true story, my dad got his truck stolen once. And my dad, he's not listening to the show, so I can say it. Kind of a dumbass sometimes. Like, growing up, we would always go to the convenience store. He'd go inside, buy his pack of cigarettes.
Leave his keys.
And he would leave his keys. He'd leave it running. Just get out and go inside. He was very trusting. Very, very trusting individual. So one day he got his truck stolen in Hickory. They drove it about 40 miles down the interstate, got off, went to a gas station. By the way, his truck was full of gas. He had just filled it up.
Man, that's bad.
So for whatever reason, they got out, parked the truck, and then tried to steal someone else's car from the gas station. They were just on a Grand Theft Auto spree, and they got caught at the second gas station.
I wish I could say your dad needed to be smarter, but
he needs to be smarter. I told him, I was like, come on, Dad, you can't. I mean, it's a new truck too. It's like probably 4-year-old Dodge Ram or something like that.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but
I doubt it even has the physical key that goes in it. Like he doesn't even have to take the key out of the ignition. He just needs to take it out of the vehicle.
Yeah, I've done that. I really have. It sucks. You want to know something crazy? I don't think I've ever told you this because I forgot. And this was did you take, let me think, back in January, did you take a vacation day?
We got sick. Both you and I were sick on the same day.
Because I was by myself, so it might have been toward the end of the year, right before New Year's, right before the New Year. I left the station one day, Diesel, after hosting by myself. I was here. You were on vacation. I went down to my car, and my car was still running.
Oh.
4 hours later, it was still running. And I said, boy, wonder why that car's running right there. But it happened. Not proud of that, but it was a blonde moment, right? All right, next one for you on this Wild Card Wednesday. What do you think about basketball, the game of basketball?
Generally like it, yeah.
Okay, being
it's all right.
Transitioned to a glass surface. Not making this up. It's on AP's website.
Why?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked. So
I think I know the answer, and I'm not going to like it.
What do you think the answer is?
Advertising. I think the ability to project an image on the underside of the court in real time. You can change the ad to anything you want to, and the players don't necessarily have to see it. You could probably just, put for lack of a better word, like a green screen or a blank image under the court so the players don't ever see it change.
Yeah.
Like when you watch Major League Baseball. They don't have like rolling advertising sandwich boards behind the plate. It's a green screen for television.
Sure.
Same for hockey.
There is a German company out there that employs a guy, Diesel, named Chris Thornton. Chris Thornton is a basketball fan.
Very German name, by the way.
It is. And he, by the way, this German company, it's ASB Glass Floor. It's a company that builds floors made of fused together layers of safety glass covering LED panels. The courts are a far more dynamic visual feast with customized playing lines, customized logos, as you mentioned, customized colors, animated graphics, and what you said, advertisements for multiple sports. So in basketball, where wood is still king, Diesel, Thornton, who works for this company, sees growth potential for glass courts. And by the way, already showing up at all-star-like games in the NBA, right?
I'm looking up images of this to see what it looks like. It
amazing.
looks really cool. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, it looks amazing. So Chris Thornton, Diesel, he spoke out about this. And he said, I use this analogy a lot. We're at the initial stages of the iPhone being launched. Way back when Apple did that, the design of the hardware has changed. But more importantly, the original iPhone was just a phone, a text device, and a music player. Now you're running your entire life and communicating to the world on it. And he said, I see this in the same regard. So obviously, with it being glass, you have big, strong athletes running, jumping, pounding the rock, diving on the floor. It seems like it might be dangerous.
I mean, as long as it's not going to break when you've got, 10 dudes who all weigh 200-plus pounds running and jumping on it, falling on it, et cetera. As long as the surface is safe, I'm with it. Because think about it this way, Cole. As they were saying, fully customizable lines. You can use the exact same court to play whatever league of basketball
Different
you want to play on.
women's,
Where the shape is different, where the courts, where the dimensions could be different, where the shape of the paint is different.
Sure.
Right? And then you could change the color of the paint at any time. I'm seeing one here, Cole. Think about this. Think about it like watching real life players play NBA Jam back in the day. Like you could highlight a player, like you could put a tracking device in the shoe of a player, and then you could put a halo of information on the court underneath the player in real time. You could have stats follow him. Think when you're watching NASCAR, they have those little pop-up bubbles that'll say, here's how fast his last 5 laps have been, et cetera, things like that. You could have that in the court.
So they're already in Germany and in Greece, by the way.
I think it's cool.
It is cool. He goes on to say, Thornton, Diesel, he says, the glass surface gives flexibility that exceeds wood, aided by a spring action design to the aluminum and steel framing beneath the LED paneling. There's also a ceramic coating with dots etched into the glass, offering grip, a consistent surface without dead spots like wood has, or other quirks that can occur within wooden court.
You could also project a wood court, a wood floor image underneath it, and you may not ever know. Have you seen these airless basketballs that are out now? Yeah. Those are really cool. They're like 3D. They're not 3D printed, but they look like they're 3D printed, and they don't require any air. It kind of operates like a run flat tire.
It's wild, man. Look, this is, as he said, in very initial stages, but it's already implemented in certain parts of the world. So that's fascinating to me, man. I mean, that could really change the viewing experience as well. And then the last one for you on this Wild Card Wednesday, Diesel, this one is related to concerts, but I don't know how it would apply to sporting tickets as well. I think it would maybe be in the same mannerisms because I'm sure the apps work, kind of similar. But I sent this to you last night because it's Kid Rock, who most people who have a brain know who Kid Rock is, trying to get Trump to pass an order or a bill, whatever it is, to legislate concert tickets being avoidable by these bots. Mm-hmm. So here's the audio, and Diesel will explain after, and you Tolos out there probably already know all about it, but here's Kid Rock trying to get concert prices down for you consumers out there.
it doesn't matter your politics. First of all, thank you, Mr. President, because this has happened at lightning speed. I know you put, I want to make sure Alina Haba gets her credit too, because I know she worked very hard on this, but thank you for making this happen so quick. Anyone who's bought a concert ticket in the last decade, maybe 20 years, no matter what your politics are, knows that it's a conundrum. You buy a ticket for $100, by the time you check out, it's $170. You don't know what you can charge for, but more importantly, these bots, you know, they come in to get all the good tickets to your favorite shows you want to go to, and then they're relisted immediately for sometimes a 400 or 500% markup. And the artists don't see any of that money. And, you know, ultimately, I think this is a great first step. I would love down the road if there would be some legislation that we could actually put a cap on the resale of tickets. And I'm a capitalist and a deregulation guy, but they've tried this in some places in Europe, and it seems to be the only thing that's us as artists be able to get the tickets into the hands of the fans at the prices we set. I'll be the first one to say, and I know the president doesn't like when I say this, but I'm a little overpaid right now. It's kind of ridiculous. I would rather be, you know, a hero to working class people and have them be able to come attend my shows and give them a fair ticket price. I can't control that right now, so hopefully this is a step to really be able to make that happen.
And he started off, Diesel, and said politics aside, because I think that's a good point, because everybody, it doesn't matter what side you're on, you attend concerts. Everybody loves concerts. Most people love concerts, right? Your thoughts on that?
Well, there already is legislation that attempts to tackle this issue. It's called the Better Online Ticket Sales Act, which came into being back in 2016. Now, if that act is toothless and doesn't do a good job of punishing people who violate said act, then certainly there needs to be some additional legislation put in place to do a better job of enforcing it. On top of that, Cole, and again, politics aside, before leaving office, that's one of the last things Joe Biden did was sign a bill that requires any and all fees that will be added to a concert ticket purchase price down the road have to be disclosed up front. Yeah. So it's not like you go online, you buy the face value of the ticket is $50, but then Ticketmaster charges you a $5 parking fee, and then they charge you an $8 convenience fee, and then the venue charges you a tax fee and this fee and that fee, and all of a sudden, bam, your ticket price has gone up by $40. Now you're paying $90 for a $50 ticket.
That's stupid.
Which is stupid.
It is. Yeah.
But there was a piece of legislation signed just before Biden left office that said all those fees have to be disclosed up front.
Gotcha.
Now, if what Kid Rock is proposing and was just signed in as an executive order from President Trump is, if I'm understanding it correctly, he wants to try to eliminate those fees. Instead of just disclosing them up front, he wants to eliminate those fees entirely, and I'm all for it. I am all for it. The fees suck.
Stupid.
The fees suck, and it's because multiple administrations have allowed Ticketmaster to become such a ravenous, hungry, greedy, and monopoly that they have the entire ticket buying industry, them and like two or three others, they have the entire ticket buying industry gobbled up. So they can basically do what they want to do.
They gotta get rid of
There's
that.
no competition. It's not like it's not like Ticketmaster and Fred's Ticket House are competing to see who can get their fees down lowest to get people to come buy from them. Ticketmaster just gobbles up everything, and they suck. They're awful.
Yeah.
Everyone hates Ticketmaster. As far as the bots go, that is a big-time problem because people create computer programs that can rush in really, really fast and buy up all the best tickets, premium tickets, immediately because a computer program can run through the operation and buy them faster than you and I can. Because we go on there, we say, oh, I want to look and see what section, how much does this one cost? Okay, down there, those tickets look like they'd be pretty good. Let me select those. Boom, they're gone. They've already been purchased by a bot. That then those bot operators will post them online on a secondary market, charge 2, 3, 4 times what the original face value was. So I commend Kid Rock for championing this.
He cares about the people.
Yeah.
Though, you know? He didn't want people to get. Live Nation, by the way, said in a statement, Diesel, any meaningful that they supported the order, by the way.
Sure, they do.
Of course, and wanting to strengthen the enforcement of the 2016 Bots Act, which outlaws, like you said, the use of bots to purchase those tickets. Regardless, in my opinion, regardless of who the administration is or who's in office, This is dumb. I know. Look, I know presidents have a lot more to worry about than ticket prices, but you talking about?
Hey, I'm all for it.
This needs to be handled.
I'm all for like low-hanging populist fruit if it means that I get to save money off of it. Used to be you could go down to the local record store and buy your concert tickets because they were a Ticketmaster outlet, for example. There was a shop over on Lawrence Road. I think it was called Earshot. Earshot was a Ticketmaster selling site. So if I wanted to avoid all of the crappy online fees and the headaches of buying online, because back then it wasn't nearly as streamlined as it is now, I could just go over to Earshot, buy my ticket. It's the exact same ticket. I would avoid all of the online convenience fees, and I could get my ticket for a lot less. But if a ticket is $50, it should be $50.
Well, I hope Kid Rock can collaborate with the sports guy and do it for sports and concert. I guess ticket.
I'm sure it happens for major sports events too, like Super Bowls, national championship games, big time bowl games.
It does.
All of it sucks. And these, if somebody thinks they can make money off of it by snapping them up quickly with bots and then selling them again later on the secondary market, they don't care what the entertainment is. They just care about their ability to make money off of it. We got to get rid of the
bots.
Get rid of bots. Can we get rid of the porn bots that are on Twitter also, please? Like every time I post something, bam. Some girl with huge cans and 4 followers in Russia is liking my post.
Yeah, I want all
ridiculous.
bots gone. That's what I want.
When we come back, Cole, we are 3 weeks away from the NFL draft. So I've been perusing some of the mock drafts and some of the changes that we're now seeing to some of these mocks, and you and I will discuss it next on the Fan Upstate. Well, football fans, you're close to getting a little nugget sent your way. The NFL, of course, does a fantastic job dominating the sports calendar. It's been, God, it feels like it's just like a month ago, but it's 2 months ago we had the Super Bowl, almost 3 months ago. And now, Cole, February. Coming up on Thursday, April 24th, we're back, baby. Football is back. God. With the NFL draft Thursday, April 24th for round number 1. Round number 2 is on Friday. After that, who cares? Because, I mean, I don't sit and watch the draft after that. I don't understand people who sit and watch the entire draft. Like round 1, fine. Yeah, sit and watch round 1. That's cool. I get it. Maybe the first couple picks of round 2, you watch and you're like, okay, cool. After that, just read it in the newspaper on Monday.
I'll keep up with it. I don't understand. Look, I mean, again, when you get late in the draft, I don't know that the players that your team is going to select are
third, fourth, fifth, sixth round players,
deal, right? Yeah. Impact guys. So, no, I'm with you. I love the draft, though, man. I do love it. I can't wait. I cannot wait for football to be the topic of conversation again. Yep. You know me. I hate not having football, but football, we're getting a little bit of it back, as you mentioned. And I'm glad, man. I'm really excited.
Well, we do have, I don't even know what the name of the league is anymore. XFL, USFL.
UFL.
We got that coming back.
It's back, and it's been on. I haven't watched a single bit of the UFL. Not one bit of it. I'm sorry, but it just can't. It doesn't move the meter for me.
Not once?
No.
Come on. There's a Houston team. You've spent some time in Texas.
Can't do it.
Why watch it, honestly? Yeah. You don't spend time watching the G League.
Right.
Like, you may check in to see what Bronny did in a G League game on an app somewhere, but you don't actually tune in and watch. Nobody watches the G League, do they? Mm-hmm. Nobody watches the UFL. That's why I don't understand, Cole. Every time I've made the argument that Greenville should be a major league sports team, people have said, oh, wouldn't it be great if we got like a UFL team? You wouldn't go.
I don't know about
Tolos wouldn't go. Like, even the most diehard football fans, like you, like me,
I wouldn't go.
Like the Tolos, you don't turn on and watch UFL. So imagine if down here in Malden at Bridgeway Station, where they finally have gotten the Greenville Triumph Stadium approved and they've broken ground and they're excited about getting that going, if they were playing UFL football over there in springtime, you wouldn't go. Like, even if it was right here on in your own backyard, you wouldn't go. So I'm tired of that argument from locals who say, well, couldn't we just go to another minor league team? Shut up. We don't need more minor league teams around here. Greenville's a major burgeoning city. Let's act like it, damn it. Well, again, the NFL draft just a couple of weeks away. I'm excited for it, Cole. The mock drafts have had a little bit of movement, not necessarily in the 1-2 spot, but after that, Cole, is when things start to get a little bit interesting. As of right now, and this is posted up at ESPN.com, Mike Tannenbaum put together his newest mock draft. He's still got Cam Ward going 1, Travis Hunter going 2. Not a surprise there.
No, and this is whose mock draft?
Tannenbaum.
Cam Ward
Mike
1.
Tannenbaum. Yep.
And who to?
Travis Hunter.
And see, I think that's where most of the drafts start to kind of separate themselves. I'm really interested. I'll tell you what, I've said this multiple times. This year's draft, I don't think it's going to be the best draft in terms of the best talent is just loaded up in the first round. I don't know that this is the best quarterback draft. In fact, I think it's pretty low when it comes to quarterback drafts. However, what I am intrigued about when April 20 whatever rolls around and we do get to the draft, I'm very intrigued to know if these guys who have mocked the 2 spot with a Shador or Abdul Carter, because, for example, on NFL.com, Lance Zierlein at 2, he has Abdul Carter going to the Cleveland Browns. So it does seem, as of right now, as we get closer and closer, I like that we're starting to find a little balance. Overall consensus is that Cam Ward's going to go 1. But, boy, I also love the suspense of not knowing who really is going to go at 2 because it's a split decision right now.
Yeah, I've read a couple of articles about kind of the ugly side of how teams will try to get a player knocked down to where they are going to draft. So let's just say that you were drafting 8 like the Carolina Panthers are, and they really needed a quarterback, but you really liked Cam Ward. You're not going to be willing to trade everything you got to go get the number 1 pick again.
No.
So why not start some nasty internet rumors about how, you plant stories in the media, and this apparently is a very big issue of reporters planting stories saying that multiple NFL sources have told me, as they have interviewed player XYZ, that he's got attitude problems. Yeah. And he's got this problem, and he's got that problem. So they talk trash about him in the media to try to get the Kuipers and the Tannenbaums and all these people to catch up on it and then start moving these guys down the drafts. Because you and I know it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Once you leak the information, people start running with it, and suddenly it becomes a narrative that this great player has attitude problems or isn't a team player or whatever it may be. And then, but teams will sabotage a player's draft capital just to go get him.
Yeah, also, one thing I've taken away from looking at all these mock drafts, I also am very intrigued, and I don't know if this is going to come to fruition or not, Diesel, but I'm very intrigued to look at the draft, and I would classify it as a very top-heavy draft because you do have the Cam Wards that are talked about, the Abdul Carters, the Travis Hunters, and I'll even throw in a guy like Ashton Jeanty who's talked about a lot. But the reason I think this draft is very top-heavy is once you get to 4 and 5 and start working your way down, no disrespect to these guys, no disrespect to a Jalen Walker out of Georgia or anything, Diesel, but you're going to start seeing guys go early like Will Campbell out of LSU, who's an offensive tackle. You're going to see guys like Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan, go. So my point here is the first round may not be as sexy of a draft as it was last year.
See, I like it when it's like this.
Well, I do too.
I like it when there's not some run on quarterbacks and 6 of the top 15 picks are all QBs.
Well, I don't necessarily want it to be a quarterback run. However, I do think the star-studded lineup gives you so much interest into the NFL because someone who may not consider them an NFL fan, if you've got this lineup of projected players going in the first round, you say, okay, I might want to follow these guys, right? You've got these big names. Now, let me be very clear. The Mason Grahams and the Jalen Walkers of the world are still going to be very impactful guys. They're just not as sexy as names. And even for the Panthers case, if they go get a guy like Mykel Williams at 8, Diesel, Mykel Williams, you know what? There's a lot of college football fans in the upstate, but I would say most college football fans that aren't diehards don't know who Mykel Williams is, right? They may be a South Carolina fan, they may be a Clemson fan, but I think that it's a good thing that you have parity in terms of the 1 through 15. I just don't know that you're going to have as sexy as names go as early as you usually do.
Well, we've also seen an explosion in big-time movement with veteran quarterbacks this year. We've seen so many of them on the move, taking jobs. I mean, God, didn't they talk about bringing Matt Ryan out of retirement? Am I remembering that correctly?
I don't know.
Was it Matt Ryan? It was one of the older quarterbacks who I think had recently retired. They talked about bringing him back out. Yeah. So I think that number one, you've got a relatively weak quarterback class, and you've got a lot of big time veterans on the move, still making contract deals, and I think what we're seeing is a shift away from, got to be QB at all costs, because these teams are realizing that quarterbacks, even as highly touted as they may be coming out of college, are a very dangerous pick. So
a lot of risk involved.
They're seeing, you're seeing offensive linemen, defensive linemen, edge rushers really getting their due. And that may be a this year only kind of thing.
Could be.
But, I appreciate seeing that. I mean, I'm looking again at ESPN's mock draft. This is Mike Tannenbaum. He's got Mason Graham, defensive tackle, 3. He's got, and this guy's a big time mover, Armand Membo, offensive tackle out of Missouri, going 4. He's got Abdul Carter going 5, edge rusher. He's got Jeanty, 6. He's got an offensive tackle going 7. He's got a linebacker going 8. He's got an edge rusher going 9. So look at that, man. You are seeing some big time dudes on the defensive line? Because I think a lot of teams are looking at them as more of a sure thing than quarterbacks are.
Well, when you look at those other positions, there's not near as much risk involved. You don't have to have that player touching the football every single snap. Now, I will say, as long as I've watched the NFL, you have years like this. There are ebbs and flows where the quarterback class may not be as good, and what we're seeing this year is just an ebb and a flow that we've seen 5 years ago, that we're going to see again in 6 years down the road. And I will say, I don't think the quarterback class is strong. Will you have a guy or two that maybe pops and lands in the right situation like a Jackson Dart? Sure. But this is going to sound disrespectful to Cam Ward. I don't mean for it to. But the fact that Cam Ward is the end-all, be-all when it comes to quarterbacks being drafted, I think that just goes to show where we are in terms of the quarterback stock, because I don't even know that Cam Ward's a surefire pick. Like, could he be good? Yeah, but Diesel, I think, is just as much as he could be good, he could be a bust. And that just goes to show we don't have a strong quarterback class.
And talk about how the stock has fallen on Shedeur Sanders over the past couple of weeks. He's now mocked down at 10. Now, this is I don't know if he's basing this off of rumors or what he would do if he was a GM, but Tannenbaum's got Shedeur Sanders going 10 to the Steelers, who have made a trade with Chicago.
Listen to this. NFL.com, Lance Zierlein, Diesel, has Shedeur Sanders going 24th.
Wow.
To the Browns.
Wow. Remember we were talking about him as a 1, 2, 3 kind of pick.
Boy, has the tide. I mean, can you imagine what would happen? Would he walk out if he fell that low? I mean, would he walk out? Man, no disrespect, but God.
I think Dion would call up Roger Goodell, say, stop the draft. We got to figure this out. Something's going wrong.
Man, it would be insane. But what's that tell you?
It's fascinating to see, just how much movement and how opinions can change as now these teams have had more time to work these guys out, to get to know these guys. And now conversations are funneling their way to the pundits of the world.
Yeah. And it just goes to show a lot of those early mock drafts, it's a crapshoot in terms of what will actually happen. We've talked about that. Diesel, coming up next in the very next segment, I will tell you and the Tolos, even those on the stream, the 143 that are watching the show, we'll show you some pictures and videos for you on the stream. But last night was the first ever baseball game at Fifth Third Park. It was about the third inning by the time I got there last night. Man, it was just a special night. We'll talk about it, and I'll go into detail about what made the night so special next. If you are a Spartanburger, if you live, reside, frequent Spartanburg, you now have baseball. That's right, baseball officially back in Spartanburg after last night. No, it wasn't the minor league team. However, Wofford and USC Upstate put on a great game at Fifth Third Park last night. So it's officially open. And boy, you talk about a night. I left the radio station right before 7 and made my way to Spartanburg Diesel. And when I got there, it was somewhere, I believe, middle of the third inning or so. And I walked in. Obviously, you and I have been there. We got the tour of the stadium last week. But I was blown away just at the cars, the traffic in downtown Spartanburg. You know, people who live in Spartanburg and are from there have never considered Spartanburg a big city, right? It's small, and the downtown is smaller, right? But I tell you this, I was telling a friend of mine last night, having baseball in Spartanburg for the first time, in my opinion and in my life, makes Spartanburg feel like a big-ish city. I know it's not, but you have a baseball team. You have a baseball park. You have a minor league baseball team. And I walked in last night, and boy, I just immediately got goosebumps. It was just a little bit surreal to think that standing in downtown Spartanburg, 2 miles from where I was born, a city I grew up in, a city I love, that baseball is finally back. And congratulations to the Wofford Terriers last night for being able to say they got the first ever win at Fifth Third Park. But Tolos, if you want to see some pictures and video I took, hop over to the stream where you can watch the show live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That is how you can see some of these. But Diesel, I'll tell you what, man, it was absolutely breathtaking. Wofford, USC Upstate fans, Spartanburg residents showed up and showed out. This picture here was probably relatively close to the time I got there. It was just a shot of the field from. As you can see, I was a little bit left of home plate. Boy, the field looks good, doesn't it? I mean, the dirt, the grass that was shipped in, and the logo that says Fifth Third Park behind it, it was just breathtaking. That was from behind home plate. I did get a video as a crowd. It was a really good crowd last night. I told you earlier in the show, Wofford, Spartanburg, probably.
Man, is there a better spot to watch a game than that little party deck over sitting just above first base?
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's a great spot to
and
watch
there's
a
so
game.
many good spots, man. Like, it was breathtaking. I did, you know how on an iPhone you can actually zoom out? Yeah. I took a zoomed out picture as well, and you're seeing that cool now on the stream with the crowd, man. Again, it's not as big as Floor Fields Park, but it's unique in its own ways, man. It's so unique. And Diesel, as it got later in the night, just seeing the people. I mean, if you're from Spartanburg, you turn left and you turn right, and you bump into everybody. You know everybody, right? Spartanburg still has that home or that small town feel, if you will. This was one of the shots I took. I zoomed in. This one was cool. It was just getting dark. This is the AC Motel.
Love it.
Lit up, right? Lit up. You can see the skyline. It's just such a good view. And then the last one that I took, I was walking back to my car, which parking was not near as bad as I thought it would be last night.
Really?
No. I found a little old salon that I don't know if it's still in business or not, and parked.
Illegally. So you parked illegally.
Well, it didn't say no parking.
You found a place to park illegally.
It didn't say no parking, so I said I'll park here. And there's a lot of little places like that, right? You have to drive around. Now, the parking garage, for those out there that are planning maybe to go tonight, that are on the way tonight to see the exhibition game, the parking garage is not open yet. And you and I saw that parking garage will hold,
I think that said 600 cars.
Good amount of cars, so that'll alleviate some of the pressure. But parking wasn't as bad as I thought. Obviously, the earlier you get there, the better parking you're going to get. But this picture, man, this one was the one that just really had me. I love this picture. I was walking back to my car, and it was just it's just a shot of the Hub City Spartanburgers game. And again, if you're watching on the stream, you can see it there. The Hub City Stadium, rather, Fifth Third Park. It sits down. You didn't kind of realize it from other angles, from other areas. You don't really realize how much they had to dig. It sits low, right? You can see I'm standing on, the street almost. He's on the sidewalk. And to be able to walk back to my car last night and grab that picture and see the stadium lit up and see people on a Tuesday night. Think about this. This is where I think it'll help the city so much. On a Tuesday night, downtown's just buzzing on a Tuesday. And if you're from Spartanburg, you don't go to downtown Spartanburg on a Tuesday.
That helps all the bars and the restaurants that are within like 5 or 6 blocks of there. I think it's going to be awesome for the city of Spartanburg. And, it's such a fantastic way to start this thing off, bring in 2 college teams in to christen the building.
I love that.
I thought that was a really great move on their part to schedule this thing.
Test run.
Yeah. How did everything flow as far as like in stadium when you went to go get a hot dog or a fountain drink or something like that? Did that flow correctly?
No, it did. It felt weird that everything flowed so well. I went into the merchandise store.
Yeah.
Oh my word, incredible! So I walked up to the press box just to peek my head in. I didn't stay up there long, and I saw Tyson Jeffers, the GM who we've had on the show, right? And I said, Tyson, did you have knots in your stomach this morning? And he said, no, man. He said, I'm telling you, we had so many, great staff members. He said, everything's gone smoothly. And he talked about the test run last night and the test run tonight being big. There's a few kinks you want to work out. But I'll tell you, Tyson, Ian, those guys over there, they were just ecstatic. People in Spartanburg at that game last night, everybody was happy. Everybody was happy. And man, just something that I've never seen in Spartanburg before. That large of a crowd gathered. I think Spartanburg baseball is, the fact that we're getting baseball in that city, I think it's going to thrive even after the newness wears off,
Yeah, the important thing is making sure your card readers work, making sure the people who are operating said card readers know how to do things.
Yeah, the machine, the debit card machine. I bought a water and a hot dog last night without the bun, but just the
wiener.
The wiener, yeah, without the bun. And the card machine.
So what you're saying is Cole Bryson isn't about the buns. He's all about the wiener.
I'm trying to get rid of this belly right here is what I'm trying to do. So it was a fantastic night, and I just say hats off to Tyson.
Did you take any photos of yourself eating it?
No, I just didn't want to give you any ammo. I didn't want to do that. But it was a great night.
It's probably smart. I'm not mature enough to handle photos like that. I posted a couple other photos for those of you watching the stream, photos that were taken from media photographers. Here's my favorite shot, Cole, that I found is this one right here.
Upstate.
The Upstate dugout, and that full crowd behind him. That is awesome to see. When we come back, we'll bring on Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer. He's coming on to talk NASCAR, Martinsville, and everything going on the next weekend as well. All things NASCAR with Shane Connuck next. The NASCAR season continues on, and our very next guest, Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer, was there at hallowed ground this past weekend in Martinsville, Virginia, to cover the race. Welcome into Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Shane, as you've had an opportunity now in covering NASCAR to travel around and be at several different tracks, do you ever get the feeling that one or more of them is a little more hallowed than others? Like, can you pull into the infield of one of these tracks and know, wow, I'm really in a special place with a lot of history?
Yeah, especially Martinsville. It's a great example of that. When you talk about the drives, when you're going to Martinsville and you're going to Darlington from here in Charlotte, it can be about 2 hours. It can be whatever it is, but it's how much different these drives are. You're going up to Bowman Gray Stadium in Winston-Salem. You do that drive. It's about an hour further up to Martinsville. All of a sudden, you start to go on different kinds of roads, different kind of path. And then once you get to this racetrack, like a Martinsville, like a Darlington, it's just in the middle of nowhere. There is nothing like it. And that's just how you know what makes these racetracks special.
You know, Shane, I have watched a little bit or most of every race this season, not all of every race, but I have tried to watch a little bit of every race. Now, I will tell you, I watched most of, if not all of Martinsville's race on Sunday, the race at Martinsville. And tell me what you've heard from NASCAR fans and what you feel as well, because I thought of you tell me, 5, 6 races we've had this year, I thought the race Sunday was the best one out of all of them, and it's not even close.
You look at how dominant Denny Hamlin was, and it could feel that way. And last year, we saw so many races where that 11 car was the dominant car, was the best car, and it got to victory lane, or something happened, an engine problem, got wrecked, something happened that prevented the dominant car from winning the race. And when you get Denny Hamlin leading as many laps as he led last week at Martinsville, he was the best driver by far, and he ends up in victory lane. A dominant victory for him, and yeah, that does make it a good race. It shows that it was a test of who can pass people, who can execute on pit road the most. When you have a track that short and you have passing can come down to as little of things as it can, it shows you how important it is to be perfect, and Denny Hamlin was. Nearly.
Shane, a little follow-up to that. While I enjoyed the race, I did have a couple of people on Twitter, on X, tweet back at me about the lack of passing. Do you feel that Sunday's race and the lack of passing was an issue in the short track package that NASCAR has?
I think we all know it was a bigger issue in that Xfinity Series race and Truck Series race. Not necessarily passing, but they had their share of issues themselves toward the end, and the Cup guys are a lot better with it. And after the race, though, Christopher Bell, Bubba Wallace, all the drivers were not afraid to say it, that Xfinity Series race was basically an embarrassment to the sport. That's not how we should be racing, and these Cup drivers are better. And you see that in that how many different guys led once Denny Hamlin got to the lead. How strong was Bubba Wallace in that he was not able to get past Christopher Bell or Denny Hamlin at the front of the pack? It shows you how strong the top drivers are, and at a track like Martinsville, they can dominate.
Shane, we've had a couple of conversations on the station here over the last couple of days, and a few of our Tolos who are hardcore NASCAR fans were actually the ones who brought up this concept here that it's been harder for the diehard fans and even new fans alike to follow some of the same drivers week after week after week because of just constantly changing sponsors with some of these cars. Maybe it's not a huge problem at the front of the pack, the best 3, 4, 5 drivers, but after that, it gets a little tougher if you can't look for the same paint scheme or the same logo on the hood week after week. And I understand that NASCAR is an incredibly expensive sport to operate. It's an incredibly expensive sport if you are a prospective advertiser to make your way into to want to sponsor a car. But is NASCAR aware of this feeling that some fans have? And ultimately, is there anything at all they can do about it?
I think that when you look at it right now, there's so many opportunities for every driver to have 4 or 5 different sponsors, different paint schemes. And then even if you start to associate the Menards with Ryan Blaney, you start to associate the secondary sponsors or tertiary sponsors with that driver. Denny Hamlin, every time you see a FedEx van out on the street somewhere, it just is synonymous with the 11 car for such a long time now. Inside the 2311 Airspeed shop, they've got red and black from the Bulls in Michael Jordan's room, and they've got orange and purple from FedEx in Denny Hamlin's room. Now, that is all that being said, Denny Hamlin now all of a sudden is driving a Progressive sponsored car, a bright blue car with a big P on the hood for most races in the Cup Series. All of a sudden, FedEx is not part of Denny Hamlin anymore. And it feels like you just associate the colors, the livery with that driver, but because it can just change like that, I do think the diehard fans just notice it because, again, instead of Denny Hamlin's teams wearing whatever colors they're wearing, you're used to seeing them wearing blue, and they got their first win in that. You get used to it right away. And again, because they do change up the paint schemes to begin with, that even now this Progressive scheme is now for 18 of 20 races. And so there are always going to be other colors, other schemes. And I think the diehard fans, it's like wearing alternate jerseys in a different sport. It's like how NBA teams have 35 different alternate jerseys that every year need to change up which colors and which logos and which courts the team has. But if you're a fan of the team, you're not going to not recognize the Memphis Grizzlies wearing red last night or whatever I was seeing.
Shane, it's interesting, when we talk about Denny's dominance on Sunday at Martinsville, not to get too deep in the weeds here with roll center and front and rear suspension, but I enjoyed, as someone who doesn't consider themselves a diehard NASCAR fan, I very much enjoyed the commentary from Kevin and Clint and the booth on Sunday talking about why Denny was dominating in the way he was, because Christopher Bell, who on that restart with 94 laps to go, he was right there the entire time. However, they talked about on the broadcast the wear of the tires and the way Christopher Bell was driving a little bit more hard, especially in the turns, than Denny was. And you saw when Denny spun out at the end and spun all of his tires in the celebration, how much wear he still had on the tires. Do you think there's that big of a gap between the greats of the sport like Denny Hamlin and guys like Christopher Bell who are still learning how to drive and maximize the rubber that's left in the end of those races?
Now, that's a great point, especially because Christopher Bell, you've seen how dominant he's been this year with his trio of victories of his own. But that's the thing. When you get a driver like Denny Hamlin, he gets into the lead. His team figures out how to execute as perfectly as it can on pit stops. And then you get a team like the 20 team that Joe Gibbs Racing. You also notice all those cars, all those teams are all prepping in the same building up there in Huntersville. So it gets to the point. Your 44-year-old veteran driver gets to the lead. Nobody, including his teammates, is going to be able to pass him.
Shane, what can you tell us about NASCAR's involvement with the upcoming Days of Thunder 2 release? I remember being a kid when the first Days of Thunder came out, and you would see all the cars that were involved in the fake race in the movie. They were all out there actually on real NASCAR tracks with full stands. How involved has NASCAR been, and how much of a boost do they anticipate possibly coming from this? Because like I said, I remember as a kid being a huge fan of the first Days of Thunder. I remember going to Carowinds and being in Days of Thunder simulators and thinking, oh my God, I want to be a race car driver.
Well, like in those 2023 playoffs with the Netflix documentary that the sport put out, that it felt like, and some drivers said, that was the best thing that happened to our sport since Days of Thunder. So there are all kinds of things happening right now, including as NASCAR heads to Prime Video, it's going to have a documentary about it's going to take you through Kyle Larson's second double attempt as he's going to try to pull off the Indy 500 and Coke 600 this year. So NASCAR, again, promotes all that kind of stuff while at the same time, obviously, the more cameras you have, the more stuff you have. And so it does seem like between Days of Thunder 2, between the Prime Video documentaries that are coming out, the Netflix series that is already has been out, NASCAR is trying to figure out ways to put its sport in new people's eyes, and that's exactly what these sports need. We've got another thing that's going to be coming out soon about leading us up to the Kentucky Derby and horse racing and leading us behind the scenes of that. And we saw the way Drive to Survive grew Formula One. Days of Thunder really tried to help grow NASCAR originally. The Netflix thing tried. This is tried, and yet another attempt as NASCAR looking to appeal to new audiences.
Shane, when you look at Sunday, man, the state of South Carolina, the great state, may I add you, getting NASCAR this Sunday, man, what do you expect? And I guess this is a two-part question. Will Shane Connuck be in Darlington, and what do you expect to see on Sunday?
Shane Connuck will be in Darlington.
There you go. I like it.
Well, very excited to be back at Darlington, and it's going to be a fun throwback weekend for the 11th time. And there's something about Darlington that for 75 years now, from 1950 to 2025, and when we look to the future, I talked to Josh Harris, the president of Darlington Raceway. Got a story coming out at charlotteobserver.com tomorrow morning with him. There's a lot that Darlington's looking to do in the future. They're constantly bringing students from Darlington County schools to the racetrack, exposing them to career opportunities, exposing them to different things, different community events, charity events that the track is starting to host year-round, and bringing people to the racetrack outside of those two race weekends. And as the economy continues to grow around there in the PD region of South Carolina, even more looking to do more and more hotels, more and more restaurants going up around there. And so really looking to make that area a special place beyond the two race weekends when the NASCAR Cup Series is there. And when it's there, there's nothing bigger than that Goodyear 400 this weekend and the Southern 500 on Labor Day.
You know, Shane, you were talking about NASCAR promoting itself through multiple documentaries. Well, you know how like Major League Baseball teams will promote themselves through some over-the-top ridiculous food item. You can go to, and I'm just making this up off the top of my head, you could go to a Chicago Cubs game and get a 6-foot-long hot dog if you want to, and it's topped with all this crazy stuff, and it's $50, and it gets people talking about it. Is NASCAR doing anything like that where they're trying to promote Darlington and what makes Darlington different, and a reason why fans, especially foodies, would want to go to a Darlington race because they can get some special item at the Darlington race that you can't get in Charlotte, that you can't get in Martinsville, that you can't get at Bristol?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not like Darlington specifically. I don't necessarily yet, but there, Martinsville though. You don't go to Martinsville Speedway if you don't go to the middle of the racetrack to the hot dog stand, and you get one of those things for $2. I'm a big plain guy, you know, and I every time I'm there, I do get a red plain hot dog. And why they're just a bright red, I don't know. I get that you have to get them all the way, but you can't not get a plain hot dog if that's what you eat at Martinsville. There is no going to Martinsville not eating a hot dog. And I do think that that's one of those things, the more and more we try to promote stuff on social media and appeal to other people, I don't know why that's not going to make people go to Martinsville. That's an easy one right there.
Yeah, I saw they were promoting that a lot to Diesel's question on the broadcast. I don't know if you went back and saw it, but I
saw Chris Myers and Jamie McMurray in person doing that hot dog stand. I watched that bit happen.
That's awesome. I don't know what it is about the short tracks, and I guess, Shane, when you talk about NASCAR and you have the diehard fans, and if you're not a diehard fan, you probably don't watch, but I think that just from me, my perspective, my standpoint, of not being a diehard fan, but I do tune in to the races. If the short track package was something they could fix, Shane, if it was something that they could tweak and allow to improve, I just feel like the short tracks are kind of the bread and butter of NASCAR last week, this week, and then next week at Bristol. By the way, I'll see you there, right?
Yeah.
I think that the NASCAR short tracks are probably where they can really attract a new audience, because I think the brand of racing, I don't want to say it's better than the mile and a halves, but I just feel like the racing at the short tracks is a great quality of racing.
And when you're going to a track like Bristol, it's an arena. You're going to an event. It feels like you're in just a fully enclosed stadium more than anything else. And not that Martinsville doesn't feel like that. It feels, I've seen Ryan McGee compare it. It's like NASCAR's Fenway Park. When you have the history of that kind of place and a venue that just feels a little bit more enclosed, and again, if it's a 2.5 mile monstrosity, then that's unique in and of itself. But again, when you talk about getting new fans to just come here, see this, I think when you get a venue that's just bigger than anything you see in any other sport, and the fact that Bristol Motor Speedway, which is going to host a Major League Baseball game this year, hosted a college football game, breaking attendance records, is one of the smallest tracks in NASCAR. So there is a lot to be said about the short tracks, and to your point about the quality of the racing, but also that the variety is what NASCAR really needs. And I think right now it's at that point when it's going to have good races some places, average races some places, and just keep comparing the short tracks and the road courses and the mile and a halves and the big super speedways.
Shane Connuck on Twitter at Shane_Connuck is where you can find him. Tell us about this conversation that you were able to have with John and Lynn Wood of Wood Brothers Racing. You know, we were talking earlier about hallowed ground there at Martinsville and hallowed ground at Darlington. This is the personification of hallowed ground. The Woods Brother team has been around so long, 75 some odd years in this sport. What was that conversation like?
Yeah, 75 years in the sport. Wood Brothers Racing, based up in Stewart, Virginia. And John and Len Wood continuing the legacy that Glenn Wood started back in 1950 for the Wood Brothers. That number 21 car is one of the most famed cars that there is. And the Wood Brothers have had varying success over the years. As historic as they are, it's not like the Wood Brothers are a perennial champion with every single driver they've ever had. They have had a lot of different top drivers, and throughout the sport's history has sat in the seat of that famed number 21 car. And all different drivers have had their shares of moments, including just in the past year alone. Harrison Burton last year at Daytona getting that win for the Wood Brothers. That was huge for that team. And then they bring in Josh Berry, and he gets a win early this year. Not only that, but you've noticed he's been among the better Fords in the sport early on in the Cup Series. Josh Berry, a growing driver himself, and it really is it really is just a particularly good time for the Wood Brothers throughout their history, the position that they're in with Josh Berry. And when we were in Martinsville this past weekend, this is something that John and Len Wood kind of said before, like maybe being that we're based in Virginia, and yeah, Josh Berry does have a bit of a following in Martinsville, Stewart area with his late model and modified success around there. And I got to the racetrack and just walking around on Saturday and Sunday, you saw a lot of Josh Berry gear. You saw not just Wood Brothers 21 stuff, but specifically Josh Berry stuff. A lot of these people follow the Wood Brothers and are following them right now as they are in a position to win races every week.
Now, that's a great point, Shane, and I'm glad you brought that up to Diesel's question, because the Wood Brothers' rich tradition, a lot of that comes from right here in Spartanburg, where we're broadcasting with David Pearson, who is a relative of mine. I don't know if you knew that or not, but from Spartanburg, and drove the 21. I'm a little biased. I still think the 21 is the best paint scheme because it hasn't changed a ton from when David Pearson drove it. But it's a great point you make, and I'm sure the audience here locally really enjoyed that conversation as well. How's your bracket, by the way?
Yeah, no, I do have Florida Duke, and so that is now holding up, but everything else, no, not great. However, again, I did have the 1 seeds making it far.
You didn't have all 4 1 seeds, though.
Nah.
Diesel and I, we both picked Florida. Who was your national championship pick then?
Oh, my Florida.
Yeah. Who was your national championship pick? Who'd you have winning the whole thing?
Florida over Duke.
Diesel and I both did, right?
So do we. Yeah, we both have that one, and we could score in our ESPN bracket. And we need Rob Brown to lose. We need Auburn to lose, the stumble to go down, so that the Tolos can show their dominance over these Rob Brown nerds over there.
And then give me Auburn, Florida, and then let's start with that one. Auburn, Florida, who wins, Shane Connuck?
Gators. The Gators, no one's beating them.
Houston, I like that. Houston, Duke, what about that one?
I'm still going with the Blue Devils. They're making it to the championship game this year, but they're not getting past Walter Clayton.
Wow.
So, Shane, you live in the city of Charlotte. Can you give us an idea, like, who owns the city of Charlotte collegiate-wise? I understand that it's kind of split among the teams, but I'm not going to let you say that it's split. I need you to give me one specific team. As far as gear, T-shirts, car flags, all that stuff. What do you see the most of?
Yeah, I'm a Maryland guy, so I don't have any loyalty to any of these Hill stuff around here. You see more baby blue and Chapel Hill and North Carolina gear than Gamecock stuff, than Duke stuff, than any of the other schools around here. But all that is to say that Buzz Williams is the next great coach in college basketball for the next few years.
Very well could be. Shane, you're the best, man. We always appreciate you.
Always appreciate you guys. Good. Look forward to Darlington, South Carolina this weekend.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Shane Connuck. Do you think that Shane Connuck would have had a fighting chance against that goose in the background? Did you hear that? Midway through the interview, I heard the goose, and I was like, oh, boy.
He's still on the line with us. Let's bring him back on for 1 second. You didn't upset the goose, did you?
Nah. I see. That's why I'm all in the conversation a second.
Did you even hear the goose, Shane?
Oh, I say everything. There's all kinds of stuff going on. Yeah. I just try to get out in the real world when we do these things.
I love it, man.
Appreciate you, Shane.
Thanks, Shane. You know how the reason I brought that up is we have two resident geese here that can be pretty.
They're mean.
Pretty mean,
especially when they got their goslings around.
Yeah, there's if there's two geese, there's too many geese around here. I'm not a big fan, but am a big fan of Shane Connuck. You should go follow him on Twitter, on X. Again, Shane Connuck is a great follow. I'm getting you his Twitter handle. It's Shane_Connuck. That's Connuck. Fantastic, as always. Diesel, we brought this up earlier in the show, and I'm curious as to know if these spring game formats change. And I know you brought up something earlier in the show that was Syracuse and maybe a little bit of a barrier. If these did change, how soon could we see change come to these spring games? I'll even ask this question. Could this year be the last year of the traditional spring game format? We'll dive into that next. of you Spartanburg Tolos headed out to the Fifth Third Park to see an exhibition game between Hickory and the Hub City Spartanburgers tonight. If you are, let us know on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, 844-FAN phone. That's 844-326-3663. Want to give you Tolos a little update on what our April looks like on the road with Diesel and I. We do know that Diesel, we will be at the first ever Hub City Spartanburgers Greenville Drive game. That's on a Thursday, April 24th, and we'll be there from 3 to 7. The game, I believe, is at 6:30. And, boy, I hope we have a lot of Tolos come out because that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this park filled. You were talking earlier about capacity being, slightly smaller than what they have down at Fluor Field. Yep. 5,000, I think, is the capacity for Spartanburgers games, which I think is a perfect number for them. It's all about creating the right-sized venue for what you anticipate you're going to get. You're seeing it all across college football where these venues just grew and grew and grew, and the whole goal was to pack as many people in there as you possibly can.
Sure.
And then what happened? Television product got fantastic. At the same time, ticket prices got really crazy, and people have said, you know what? I'm not going to spend $300-$400 to bring my family of 4 or 5 up to a game. That includes all of the things associated with getting up to a game, tailgating, gas, travel, all that stuff. And so they've said, you know what? I've already paid my cable bill at home. I'm just going to stay home and watch it on TV. It's going to sound great. I've got a fridge stocked with food and drinks, and why would I go? So I love the venues who say, you know what? We don't need to match what the other team down the road has. We don't need to try to be the biggest stadium in our sport or our region. We just need to build the right intimate-sized venue, and I love it.
And Hub City Spartanburgers already doing a tremendous job in terms of being involved in the community, involved with not just our radio station, other radio stations, something that the other team here in the Upstate can't really comprehend. Diesel will be there.
What's the problem with you losers?
We'll be there on the 24th. And then on the 9th, we will be, that's a week from today, we will be at the Ingalls in Travelers Rest. And then on the 23rd, we will be at the Ingalls in Piedmont, so as the Powdersville location. So Travelers Rest, Powdersville, Spartanburg, 3 locations Diesel and I will be at in April. And then, when did you say the draft was?
The 25th, I think.
Yeah, so won't we be at Bimini's on the 25th as well?
We'll be at 24th. 24th, that's a Thursday. Thursday the 24th,
okay, I guess
Friday
we won't
the 25th.
be at Bimini's on the 24th because that is the Spartanburgers game. Maybe the 25th. That's interesting. We'll have to ask about that because we were told originally we were going to be at Bimini's the day of and the day after. Maybe now it's just the day after, but we'll let you Tolos know as that continues to come out and where we'll be in the month of April. Diesel, you mentioned something earlier in the show about Syracuse and Colorado and spring games. I was just curious because we just talked to Grayson Mann in the 4 o'clock hour about Clemson spring game this Saturday. And they're having a new format, which I like what they're doing. It's more of a 7-on-7 format in terms of scoring. It's the ones versus the ones. You talked about maybe not seeing teams and program scrimmages or scrimmage outside programs as quickly as we want. Was that right?
Yeah, so this came up with the NCAA Rules Committee. They brought it up. Deion Sanders and Fran Brown of Colorado and Syracuse, respectively, they're kind of championing this cause of essentially asking permission to play another team instead of your own team and play, you can schedule whoever you want. And that's kind of the way Deion proposed it a few weeks ago when he brought this up. Essentially, you can schedule whoever you want. There's no restrictions on level that you're scheduling. There's no restrictions on conference. I mean, I assume that if this does come to pass, you may see multi-year deals with schools. But if you wanted to schedule a conference opponent, do it. If you want to schedule a team from all the way across the country, do it. It's up to you. It really doesn't matter. But I think this is a fantastic way, number one, to make spring games an event that people outside of just one individual fan base care about. Because think about it. If you've got two national contenders, national championship playoff contenders who choose to play each other in a spring game, in a scrimmage-controlled environment, there are things that you can glean and learn from that may, that'll at least give us something to talk about in that long dead period off season. I think it's great. There was a conversation about what if Syracuse and Colorado play each other? Well, now Syracuse was a team under Fran Brown that came on strong last year.
Sure.
And Colorado looks to, recover a little bit after losing Travis Hunter and Shadur.
I just wonder how long it'll take in terms of making this happen, because I do eventually think, here we are in the spring of 2025, Diesel, I think it will happen. I think the question is a matter of when, not if, right? Because if you hear from other coaches like Dabo Swinney and Shane Beamer, our two in-state coaches, they're in favor of this. Grayson Mann talked about today that, college football's one of the only programs or sports, Diesel, that doesn't scrimmage an outside opponent, right? High school football does it with 7-on-7s, and then you have the scrimmages preseason, and the pros, you have the joint camps, and then you have not spring training, but you have training camp where you also have teams come into your training camp sometime. Then you have the preseason games. College football doesn't necessarily have that. Now, I will say maybe the Braves took the wrong approach this year, and the spring training they had really didn't help them at all.
They should have rested a little bit more.
Right, something. But I do think it's coming. I'm curious as to when, because I don't know if, Diesel, if this is something that you brought this up earlier, that you would have to schedule a year or two in advance. You know how, like, right now, non-conference games during the season are scheduled way. I mean, we have the daily wires all the time, right? Where App State's scheduled to play so-and-so.
6 years from now.
Right. I wonder if with spring games, they have to be scheduled out that far in advance as well.
Yeah, we don't know if there will be any rules attached to this. So the NCAA Football Oversight Committee rejected a proposal that would allow them to play each other in a spring game, but it also indicated that it could be reconsidered in the future. This thing is, it seems inevitable because it seems like such a great idea, right? But it's also very much in its infancy of being explored. We can say, oh, it's a great idea, do it. But the oversight committee, they need time to think about it. I don't think they're ultimately going to reject this thing. I think ultimately it is coming. And it seems to me that the NCAA oversight committee should have taken the win, not so much in approving it this year. Say, in 2 weeks' time, Syracuse and Colorado, you can play each other. But say, hey, beginning in 2026, we will allow teams that choose to play an inter-squad scrimmage and spring game atmosphere. I think it would be great to do home and homes every year.
Yeah, like you said.
But if you don't want to, you don't have to.
Right.
If you feel like there's going to be tampering on your roster, you don't have to, right? If you're Clemson and you think what we do here is already good enough for our fans, and if you think we don't want to take that away from our fans every other year by playing a road scrimmage, if you do a home and home, 1 year you're at home, the next year you're on the road, we want to give our fans this Fan Fest experience every year, then you don't have to do it.
Yeah, Brent Schottenbohr of USA Today wrote an interesting column, Diesel, that talked about before the NCAA denied Colorado's request that you brought up to stage a spring football game against Syracuse. The two schools explained to the NCAA that a spring game between the two teams would benefit players and reduce injury risk at a time of rapid change in college football. Now, as you just said, they still shot it down, but documents obtained by USA Today Sports shed additional light on how Colorado pleaded its case for a waiver from NCAA rules that forbid a spring game scrimmage between two teams at a major college level. So Colorado said it doesn't plan to appeal the NCAA decision, Diesel, after it was denied, and instead will play its annual intra-squad spring game on April 19th. Deion Sanders, obviously, as we talked about, was one of the proponents. But in the documents that were made available to USA Today, Colorado officials made the point that spring scrimmages against other teams allowed at the NCAA Division II level, so it was allowed there. Missouri Southern is hosting East Central in 9 days from now. So the Division II level allows it. They also made note that practicing against another team would reduce injury risk to each team compared to practicing against your own teammates. I'd like to see a little bit more of an in-depth study there. You know, I mean, not saying it's false, but
there have been people who have pushed back against playing another team because they think it will increase the injuries.
Right.
I'm not entirely sure how.
I think injuries can happen.
They can happen at any time, right? I mean, the risk is always there. I don't think it goes up or down anymore by playing somebody with a different jersey on.
That's interesting.
Maybe there's a risk of a quarterback taking a malicious hit because somebody on the other team just wants to go rogue and take a quarterback's knee out. I don't know about that. I mean, you could still put the red jersey on the quarterbacks and not let anybody hit the quarterbacks, take them out of it. That's still an option. And it also, is based on how you choose to format a spring football game. I mean, do you want them to play it like it's a real game, like a live game, or do you want it to be like your own traditional spring game, except your one's, your orange team isn't facing your own white team. Your Colorado Buffaloes are facing their Syracuse Orange.
The request stated, Diesel, it would limit the amount of practice reps in comparison to a normal practice where the limited number of players on our spring roster roll through a multitude of practice reps in an intra-squad setting. As an example, Colorado's request said 11 total players from each school are on the field at one time, rather than, and I guess this kind of answers our question we just asked, 11 players are on the field for Colorado rather than at one time 22 being on the field, practicing with its first-team offense against its first-team defense. Syracuse also provided a letter to the NCAA that supported that, saying practicing with another team allows for more game-like situations to be simulated, enhancing training effectiveness while reducing the exposure risk student-athletes face compared to practicing solely against their own team. So I think there's a lot of good – it's not like they just tried to throw something against the wall and see if it sticks, right? There was good support behind it, it sounded like.
Some of the sort of the tertiary things you can add an enrichment opportunity, if – when you go to play a bowl game, both of the teams, they take tours of the city and they do charitable work by like going to visit sick hospital kids and things like that. If you wanted to mix in elements like that into a week-long scrimmage, again, sticking with these two teams, if Syracuse went out to Colorado, they could go do a charitable visit to some local charitable cause or help out, build houses for Habitat for Humanity, get the Syracuse and the Colorado players together.
I like that a lot.
Double their ability to build house. Those kind of things. There are opportunities for enrichment activities off the field as well. But I don't see that the injury argument holds a whole lot of water. If you're playing a team from across the country, I don't see there being a real risk of a malicious hit on a quarterback that's trying to take him out. That's why I wouldn't play somebody who's in your own conference.
Right. No,
if you're Clemson and you play NC State this year, it's probably not a good idea to play them in your spring game because then they can scout what you want to do. Maybe that would be a bad idea, but I mean, come on. Like, you telling me two teams that don't traditionally play each other, like Clemson, Nebraska, you telling me that wouldn't be a fun spring game to watch? You wouldn't tune in to get some idea? If you wanted to put some sort of charitable donation on the line, if you could get a sponsor to say, hey, we'll throw $1 million at the winner's charity, you telling me there's not fun ways to make this thing interesting? I think all in all, it's a good idea. Sure, take some time to think about it. NCAA Oversight Committee, say you're not going to do it this year, but we're interested in the prospect and the proposal, and we'll study it maybe for the 2026 season.
And by the way, I do think Clemson wins Saturday.
Yeah. Which one? Which side? The Tiger side, right?
The Tigers.
We also determined that the Tigers were going to win in a fight of all the mascots here. So I still think the Blue Devil would get it done, Cole. So when we come back, we're going to end the show with a story of somebody who accidentally donated a winning lottery ticket worth a lot of money. The question is, if the person who finds it comes forth, should they give it back? Or is it finders keepers? That's next. Finders, keepers, losers, weepers, right? I mean, that's what we've all heard since we were on the playground as little kids. If you lose something, you are SOL. But Cole, what should actually happen in the adult world? That sounds weird to say. In the grown-up world, if somebody accidentally donates a $2.5 million winning lottery ticket. Think about this. Like, people pump thousands of dollars into the lottery over their lifetimes, trying to win, trying to make it big, trying to get rich. Most people never ever do. Yeah. It's crazy lucky when you actually do. But a 76-year-old woman in Pennsylvania is desperately searching for a winning lottery ticket worth $2.5 million that she thinks she left in the jacket pocket of an item that she donated to Vietnam Veterans of America.
Woo, that's awful nice of her, wasn't it?
I know.
This jacket's worth $2.5 million, sir. That'd be my luck.
If you, I don't know the protocol of like donated items. Do they just go and toss everything? Like, they go through the pockets and see if anything's in there and then toss it? Does somebody see this lottery ticket and be like, that's nothing, throw it in the trash? Ooh. I mean,
that'd be my luck, though, Diesel. If I ever won the lottery, I'd get it in a jacket pocket.
Let's pretend for a second that this thing is found.
Okay.
And
some old man
some old man finds it. Would you do the right thing and bring it back? Because it feels like the internet would find out, right? This is the modern age.
I'd make a deal.
Yeah, I think you have to.
Make a deal. Say, look, I found it.
50-50, is that too steep?
What, and you'll get like $2 million from it, so you get about $1 million.
Well, so you get 1.25 before taxes. After taxes, you're probably taking home like $750. $750,000 $1 million. It'd still change your life money. Let's say they bring it back. Oh God, does it feel wrong to extort a 75-year-old woman for money?
I'll be honest with you. Initially, I don't think I'd take it back. I think I'd.
Well, don't you have to? I mean,
I don't know how that works. You have to take it. No, I mean, if
like now that the story is out there, people know that the lottery ticket is missing. Yeah, and if somebody goes to cash it, depending on the state, I don't know about the laws in Pennsylvania. Depending on the state, you have to declare yourself that you won it. And could somebody cross-check on who bought the ticket versus, if the name? I don't know how they would figure that out.
You might have to do a 50-50 split. That'd suck to only come away with $750. I mean, $750 is still a lot.
You got to get lawyers involved, and they're going to take their cut, and so you may not get anything out of it at all.
Not if the woman just all of a sudden happens to.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. Mean. I'm just kidding. You don't kill old women. I'm kidding.
If you gave it back, so this is presumably a Vietnam veteran who maybe buys the jacket because it's a nostalgia piece, or it's a collector of military items buys the thing as a nostalgia piece. I think, my conscience wouldn't let me cash the ticket. It wouldn't, man. I couldn't do it.
Cha-ching,
I couldn't do it.
cha-ching.
But I think here's what I got to do. I think I make a big deal out of it on social media first. That, hey, I bought this item from a Vietnam Veterans of America auction or whatever, and I found this ticket in there, and I'm gonna go return it to the rightful owner, and then just hope that the person does the right thing. And then you're putting the weight of social media pressure on the 75-year-old woman to break you off a piece of that $2.5 million.
I don't want to put the ball in her court, though. I don't want to do it.
We need to call Rob Inario and find out what the law is on finders, keepers, losers, weepers.
That make me sick, man. It would just make me sick.
That old saying, like, possession is 9/10 of the law is BS. It's not a real thing.
You would just hope and pray she's really old.
Yeah,
and hold on to it.
I think you got to give it back and say, hey, I don't want to get lawyers involved.
But give me
something.
$250.
Give me something, and it's yours. and the rest of it's yours.
I'd say the minimum for me would be $250.
$250K?
Yeah.
Yeah, $250K to be a good Samaritan.
So look, it's yours if you give me $250. If not, I'll burn it, and I'll
Neither
run.
one of us gets it.
Right? Yeah.
Then you
it's
burn
like
a fake.
Shooter.
Yeah,
seen
then you
the
burn
movie
a fake.
Shooter? Well, Tolos.
I have seen Shooter, believe it or not.
Where you burn? You have?
Yeah.
Where he burns the recorder on the mountain. Remember that in the snow?
Great movie.
That's a great movie.
All-time
there's a TV
GOAT, Mark
show-
Wahlberg.
Now there's a TV show
Yeah.
about it. It's not.
R.I.P. Val Kilmer. You were great. We all loved you. Val Kilmer, Batman, Iceman.
Yeah.
Bunch of
Tolos.
this man, that man, every man.
We'll see you tomorrow, Tolos. It's Diesel's Friday. My Thursday. We'll see you then.